Welcome into an all-new Panthers. I knew I'd fuck it up. Panthers on tap. I'm Curtis Rauen, joined by Bryson, Karbley, Ricky Raines. Coming to you guys on a Thursday night tonight. Man, we got 8 new players, a bunch of undrafted free agents to talk about tonight. It's a very exciting night for Panthers Nation. The draft is in the books. We appreciate everyone who tuned into the collab with Panthers on Tap and Draft Crush last week. Ricky was telling me about it before we got on here. You guys knocked it out of the park. 4,500, 5,000 people watching at once. Man, that's spectacular. We appreciate everyone. We can't make this possible without you guys. So that is great to hear. I'm proud of Ricky for putting that together. Bryson, I know, jumped on and was smoking Joe and smoking the cigars, and you made it on that little video that I think one of the content creators put together. I see Bryson just lighting it up.
I did not see that.
Awesome. Yeah, you made the cut on that video. I think it was for Panther fans only. You put it together.
Yep.
They did like a mashup of everyone's reactions to the first pick of the draft. So it was awesome. I was in Green Bay. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I want to let folks know that we are doing a giveaway. We got I got an extra draft hat at the draft in Green Bay, so we'll be giving that away. The way to sign up, and we'll be running this throughout our show, and this will run. All you got to do is comment on tap to enter the draft hat giveaway. We will select someone at the end. If you want to get more submissions or more entries into the drawing, if you do a super chat of any kind, you will get 3 entries for that super chat. So again, we'll do the draft hat giveaway. It looks like this, the one me and Bryson are wearing. It does not have the pin. It's not a fitted hat. It's got the snaps on the back, a snapback style hat. So we'll definitely give you guys something at the end here, and good luck to everyone who enters. But let's look at the chat here, because I know it's been a while. Come on.
When everyone starts commenting, y'all are going to have to help me keep track of this while I write these names in here. We're going to put all the names in the little spinning wheel that we've done before for the giveaways. So we'll try to get them into the private chat, fellas, and see if we can keep track of them that way.
Bo is here. We got Keaton. Looking forward to the show, fellas. Appreciate it.
Shout out Panther Bo. He said he was doing a little bit of pregame before coming on and watching the show tonight. So he's doing this the right way, man.
Panthers Bo, is this a little whiskey? What's the pregame here?
Yeah, I like it.
Z Nature. Shout out to Curtis to the picture on that draft night. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Appreciate you for tuning in. Ricky's mom, as always. Appreciate the support. We love you too. Good luck keeping these together here, Ricky. That's gonna be tough.
It's gonna go fast. It's all right. I'm on it.
Everyone's favorite segment. Curtis reads the chat. Coors isn't a pregame. That's a party foul. Come on, Panthers Bo. I have more respect for you than that.
Wait, Bryson? Aren't you a Coors guy? Don't you like the Blue Mountains?
Love him.
Yeah,
Curtis is just a hater. He's just a hater, man.
Black Panther, what's up, dogs? Appreciate it. Spelling like
it's not blueberry wine, so Curtis looks down upon it. You know.
Well, let's start with that. What are you guys drinking tonight? We'll start with Ricky. You had the can in your hand. What do you got going?
I do. Yeah, it's a typical thing for me. You got the can in your hand. That's kind of like my stick, right? Sycamore Brewery, again, one of my favorite local breweries here in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is an IPA that's called Macrodose. 6.7%. It is quite hoppy. It is quite delicious. I am a fan of it. This is my first time trying it. They always put out all these different seasonals and stuff. And Sycamore, man, they're just like can't miss when it comes to the IPAs. If you like juicy, hazy IPAs, Sycamore really does put out some great ones. They've got a triple IPA out right now that I didn't even want to put on this show because I didn't know how it was going to go for me if I did that. But it is a triple IPA that's about 10%. It's called Dime Bag. If you're in Charlotte or in the vicinity of Charlotte, go find a Dime Bag. Let me know about it, and maybe we can both discuss how wrecked we get off of 2 or 3 of those.
Bryson, what do you got?
Yeah, I got one from Bull City Cider Works here. I think a common misconception with them, they have a couple locations, Greensboro, Durham, Cary, a couple other spots, but they do beer as well. So I have a crowler of a juicy IPA, of course, 5.7%. I'm actually a really big fan of their beer that they make, and specifically this juicy IPA. It's super good. So
how big is that? That looks pretty damn big. How big is that?
1 quart, 32 fluid ounces. So
wow.
I'm gonna pour it in this.
So almost three beers in one can.
Close. Yeah.
That's solid. Well, boys, I have been waiting a very long time to show this. This is straight from the cow's udder up in Wisconsin. Spotted Cow from New Glarus Brewing. It's like south central part of the state, and I lied. It's in the southern part of the state. But check that can out.
Don't even know where it's from. Damn it. That's a great can.
I've actually never physically been to the brewery, but it's sold exclusively in Wisconsin. You cannot get it online. You can't. Anyone in the Midwest literally has to travel to a gas station in Wisconsin or a store to get it. They sold it in the airport. I brought some back, and I'm hoping at some point to try to give Ricky and Bryson a can or two. I only got a 12-pack because it's literally $29 in the airport because they mark up everything there for a 12-pack. It does not cost that in the actual store. But it's I think they call it a farmhouse ale. It's smooth like butter. It's a lighter beer, but it's so damn good.
Interesting. And you're going to be sending Bryson and mine as soon as possible, correct?
We'll send it by pigeon.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
God. But if you ever go up to Wisconsin, you have to try this beer. This is a must. They have. I drank it on tap the entire time I was there because I don't get it when I'm down here as much. So, but yeah, let me just talk about the draft for a second here. Won't try to bore you guys too much, and then we'll get into it. Green Bay put on a hell of a show. They really did. I was with a buddy the Thursday during the day before the draft, just kind of bumming around outside Lambeau Field, and my buddy's like, yeah, there ain't like a ton of people here. And I'm like, just wait, like it's coming. It'll come. And by nighttime, you could not move. You physically could not move in that area at all. And Bryson, you knew like in Kansas City when we were standing the first night, it was like you're packed in there like sardines. You can barely move around. And the lines for the beer and the bathrooms are ridiculous and they're terrible. But I thought they put on a really good show. I thought things were a little spread out. I really wanted to redeem myself from the kicking thing that me and Bryson did in Kansas City because we sucked ass at it. And I could not figure out how the hell to get to the line at Lambeau. So that was a little confusing. But yeah, they did. They did a really nice job overall. Everything was overpriced, of course. Like a draft T-shirt was like $70. I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. But I want to shout out the Panthers. They did. You guys saw on our Twitter, they gave us Cool Bean or LL Cool Bean. What the hell is that brand? I don't know. Some LL Bean. That's the brand.
Cool Bean.
LL
Bean. That's not the most Andy Samberg rapper name I've ever heard in my life.
So they gave
LL Cool Bean. Holy shit.
Dude, they need to rebrand to that shit. They gave us those bags before we left. And then when we got there, they gave us every fan. This was really every team got this, but they gave you like a clear backpack. And then it was there was like a hat in there, a Panthers winter hat, a scarf. They gave away those like big emblem or Panthers logo necklaces. And then like a cutting board, these really nice fucking cutting boards. I don't know why they were giving away cutting boards, but like it was like NFL branded Bud Light cutting board. And then the second night they gave away the draft hats as well. So that was pretty cool. I do want to shout out quickly while we're talking about it, and then I'll shut up and we can get into this draft because I know that's what you guys truly do care about. But I met the International Fans of the Year for the Panthers, which was really cool. We met them the first night. We were there on Wednesday, and the NFL brought 2 International Fans of the Year from each team to a banquet hall, and they let us kind of mingle with Roger Goodell, and we got to ask questions, and they had free food and drinks for everyone. It was a really cool experience. Both guys were from Germany. So shout out to them, and their names are escaping me, and I shouldn't forget them. But Kai and the other one is blanking me right now. But both of those guys, they actually do a podcast too, in German for all the German fans there. They are, I believe, the only German podcast out there. They're part of the Roaring Riot in Germany as well. They've went to the games. Really cool dudes. And actually the first night me and my wife ended up going to dinner with them because they didn't have anything going on. So we took them out to dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of brought them around, got them the Wisconsin food. We were joking about the brats on the menu that they had in the sauerkraut, and it was cool. And we hung out with them the whole time because they were in a circle as well. So just shout out to them, and I'll get the other guy's name because I should not forget these dudes' names at all. They were really cool. So, and I told them we would try to collab at some point. I think it'd be fun to get those guys on. So yeah, shout out to them as well. But let's get into it. Awesome. Let's talk about the draft this evening, and we'll start with Bryson here because this was your darling. I call it draft darling. We got draft crush, Ricky's show, so we'll call it your draft crush. But if I can figure out how to pull this damn graphic up, and I cut Bryson off, this is a hell of a way to start it.
Bye guys, see you later. It was over.
This is your darling, so I'm just going to throw you in the back real quick and bring up this blank screen instead. That's got LL Cool Bean written all over it. This is Curtis. I just want you to know that when this episode is done and I've had my 2 or 3 IPAs, I am going to get on Canva and I'm going to create an LL Cool J Cool Bean mashup with you as the rapper. Just let you know right now.
Please do that. Please do that.
Oh, I love that. Hey, I'm all for it. They can rebrand and then they can pay me later. How about
Where is Bryson on our screen?
There he is.
There I am. I was going to say, I promise I'm still here.
We brought him back. You guys can keep talking while I try to resize.
We brought him back. Yeah, that's a nice segue from Easter Sunday.
Oh shit! This is
what. So yeah, I'll just do a little bit of a backstory. Last week I hopped on briefly because I had some friends in town. I didn't want to be rude to them, but I hopped on briefly after the pick was made onto the stream that Ricky was doing, and I was smoking a cigar in this room that I'm sitting in right now. My wife was not happy with me smoking a cigar in the house, so I'm blaming Ricky. He got me in trouble with my wife.
My fault. Yeah.
Let's just say I had to hop off quickly and go outside and finish the cigar. It was put out very quickly after I logged on and was smoking. But yeah, man, I'll get into it. The pick, honestly, was not expecting it with the players still on the board with Jalen Walker and Micah Williams and everything we had heard leading up to pick 8, on Thursday, and I kind of felt like it was more of a dream or a kind of a long shot that Carolina went wide receiver at 8. I kind of, in the background, wanted to agree with like Curtis's sentiment. Like, yeah, the defense was terrible. They're probably going to go defense. And, I wasn't going to be mad at that at all. But when the name is announced, my wife recorded me, but I have not uploaded it because it's kind of embarrassing. But, and I don't want it to circulate around Twitter 40,000 times. So
now we gotta see it. You should have left all of that out.
Yeah, I mean, the pick came in, and I was ecstatic, man. I really was. I kind of talked about it last week just briefly, but
yeah, what was your reaction? I need the reaction. What did you do when they said Tetaroa McMillan?
Woke up my neighbors. I live in a townhouse, so I have people on each wall, like each side of my house. Definitely woke up the neighbors. Surprised the cops weren't called for like potential domestic violence screaming. But yeah, I mean, I lost it, man. I really did. Like I was damn near in tears, dude. Like seriously, because this was the player that I wanted. And I the thing I've said all along, like since the end of the season, I think we can all agree that I've wanted T-Mac. Sorry, I'm not going to call him Tet. He doesn't like to be called Tet. T-Mac at 8 was I've wanted that for, I don't know, the 4 months, 5 months leading up to the draft. Like this is the guy I wanted. I identified early and thought he was arguably the best wide receiver in the draft. And then here we are at 8, and Dan Morgan shocks the whole entire world and says, days later that they had him identified months ago for the pick at 8. Like, no one had Carolina really penciled in for T-Mac at 8. Like, no one really thought that was going to happen. So it comes through, and, like I've said before, I think he comes in and is immediately the best wide receiver on this team. I still believe that. I think he's factors in at the X, and he just brings an aspect to this team that they haven't had with a legitimate weapon on this offense, man. I still have hope for Xavier, but, T-Mac, I think, comes in and just has a different aspect at that wide receiver position that Xavier just hasn't reached yet. And I think he can get there, but T-Mac's routes, his, people want to argue lack of separation, but the man can jump over anyone and catch anything. His creativity on, like, broken plays is just going to pair like a fine wine, like if I'm Curtis, a fine wine, with Bryce Young's, we all know Bryce Young likes to escape the pocket and, like, extend plays, and T-Mac is just spectacular at getting open in those situations. So I think he's going to be a perfect fit for Carolina. I love the pick. I love what they did after. We'll get into it, but this was my number one guy, and this was the happiest that I've been in a long time. Since Bryce Young, that I wanted Bryce at number 1. But prior to Bryce, this was probably the happiest I've been in, I don't even know how long, with the pick. The guy I wanted is a Carolina Panther, and I'm just ecstatic about it still.
Yeah, I'll go. Do you want me to go, or you want to go, Ricky?
Yeah, Curtis, you go for it.
Okay, so when Bryce Young was picked, I remember recording a video at the draft, and I kind of my reaction wasn't, I tried to not be so boisterous in my reaction because I was actually recording the video and I wanted folks to see how it felt like being there. So I wasn't honestly going to record the pick this year because I'm like, I want to just react and be myself and not have to hold back during the video. And I was like, well, fuck it. I'm going to say whatever I'm feeling at the time, and we'll record it, and I'll put it online this time for the 8th pick. So I did that. And you guys saw my reaction. I think I said, holy shit, holy fuck, holy shit. I think that was like my exact words, that like pauses in between. I was stunned. Dan Morgan and Dave Canales put on the best smoke screen. I thought without a doubt it was going to be defense. I thought without a doubt it was going to be Jalen Walker at that pick. And I did not expect them to go this route at all. I remember, you can go back to our episodes, and I remember telling Bryson all the time, I just cannot see them taking a wide receiver. I didn't see that coming. I didn't think they were going to do it. And it was all bullshit. I mean, they clearly liked this guy for a long time. Bryson said, I heard Dan Morgan say it too, where, I think it was Thomas Davis talking that he called this in January, and then Dan Morgan said, yeah, it was pretty early on for me as well. So yeah, I was shocked. And again, I don't hate the pick. I think this guy's a really good wide receiver. I just thought the need for defense was was a bigger need for this team. I still probably would have pulled the trigger on Jalen Walker myself if I was making that decision, because I do think defense has struggled mightily last year, and they really needed help on that side. But I do see why they made the moves, and it's kind of funny because they literally were weighing kind of what we weighed many times on the show of, if you go 10 early, you probably have to double up on edge in the 2nd or 3rd round, and you got to even trade up to go and get your guys because there's not going to be a lot out there. And honestly, a lot of edge rushers started slipping in the 2nd round in this draft, so that was a little bit unpredictable. And then you also weighed, well, if you take Jalen Walker at 8, well, then you probably have to go out and get a guy like Jalen Noel in the 2nd. So, or Jalen Noel in the 2nd. So, like, they were weighing those same things we were weighing on this show, which I thought was kind of cool. Like, I feel like that would have been the route they would have taken if they would have went the other way. But no, I don't hate this pick. I mean, I think I've talked glowingly about Tetero McMillan, Nalo, or T-Mac, whatever one you want to call him, whatever name you'd prefer. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I think Carolina, we don't have to have these questions about, are they going to go out and get T. Higgins? Are they go out and trade for Brandon Ayuk? You got your number 1 wide receiver. You have Xavier Legette, who you took last year, #1. You surrounded Bryce Young with weapons now. There's no excuses at all for Bryce Young and company in this offense. You have viable options at running back. You have viable options at wide receiver. That room has become deeper now after this draft. And let's see what he does. I'm excited. And what makes me even more excited is that Bryce Young has been practicing with this dude, which I find fascinating as hell, and I love it because that just gives them a jump start on, OTAs and mini camp and then training camp coming up here where they actually have a connection built already as we get in here and they can hit the ground running, which is awesome. So, yeah, I'm excited. I was shocked as hell. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Before I go, I'm gonna creep back up here to Zachary Hernandez super chat. First of all, Zachary Hernandez, thank you very much, man, for the super chat, and congratulations on 3 entries into the hat giveaway. Anyone new to the chat that was not here at the opening of the episode, the ticker you're seeing scroll across the bottom, that is for a draft hat giveaway. The hats that Curtis and Bryson are so handsomely modeling for you guys right now. That is the hat that they have an extra one of that the Panthers gave to Curtis at his draft experience. It has not been worn. Don't worry. It is not game worn. It is a brand new hat, and it'll get sent out to you. All you have to do is
still on it.
All you have to do is comment on tap here in the chat. We will enter you into the bright, shiny spinning wheel that we will spin at the end of the night. I'll do my best Drew Carey impression from Price is Right, and we'll pick the big winner. But Zachary Hernandez says getting Nola, I know it's confusing, but it's Nalo, for Bryce Young and adding 2 edges for the defense is perfect. Thoughts on signing Asante Samuel Jr., Mike Hilton, or Julian Blackmon? Keep an eye on tight end Dallas Goedert situation, likely not returning to Philly. First, cheers to Zachary Hernandez for the super chat. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate it, Zach.
Man. Looks like I'm drinking orange juice, but I swear it's an IPA.
It does look like that, man. That is a cloudy SOB, isn't it?
That looks like a headache waiting to happen.
Yeah, man. I bet it's enjoyable. So my thoughts on this, first of all, just the 3 players that you named. Asante Samuel Jr., man, he's intriguing if he wasn't injured so often for me. I think that's a little bit of a red flag, especially when you're talking about potentially being a depth piece. Now, he could probably play the nickel, and it's probably what he's better suited for, honestly. He played a lot outside of college and stuff, but if he's injured and he's playing depth behind a J.C. Horn, who we know has had his share of injuries, that's a risky proposition. I don't know what the money would cost to bring that in. Mike Hilton, I really like as a nickel. I would be very content with nickel competition, although I think there's some ideas about how they're going to use Trayvon Merrick and new safety Lathan Ransom that we're going to speak about tonight. I think they have some plans on switching those guys around in different roles. Julian Blackmon, absolutely, man. Look, we heard Dan Morgan today on WFNZ radio, the Mac and Bone show. And first of all, shout out to T-Bone, Travis Hancock, 20-year anniversary today, man. 20 years of doing radio at the same program is a phenomenal accomplishment. He's a legend here in Charlotte, and one of the better people I know that has supported independent content creators for the Panthers as well. So shout out T-Bone. But Dan Morgan said, hey, the elephant in the room is signing a veteran safety. I'm aware of that, right? I'm well aware. And it's not out of the realm of possibility. This is definitely still in play. But I think what they're trying to work through here is what do they have with Lathan Ransom? What do they have with him? What do they have with Damani Richardson? What do they have in the trio of those two and Trayvon Merrick? Do they want to sign a Julian Blackmon who is essentially going to come in here and say, hey, I'm going to be the starter, right? Or do they want to sign a guy maybe a little bit cheaper as a depth piece that has that versatility and say, let's just make this thing real fluid in this safety room. Let's just get 4 really good guys and let them compete to figure out where they're going to play, situational ways they're going to play. Maybe it's even different personnel packages. So I think that's where I would lean with that. Curtis and Bryson, y'all have anything on those 3 possible additions?
Yeah, I've been on the Julian Blackmon train for a while. I think he would obviously come in and be an interesting piece at that free safety position. But Dan Morgan also made comments that, they're kind of interested in, not even interested. They think that Trayvon Merrick has the ability to kind of play that deeper safety. I would tend to lean, that, though. Yeah, I would tend to lean more towards him playing in the box and that being that kind of run stopping safety. But I think adding a veteran to that room is definitely something that needs to be done. And Ricky, like you mentioned, him knowing that that's kind of the elephant in the room. I believe something gets done sooner than later. Like they know they need to add. We all like Damani Richardson, but he's an undrafted free agent coming off his first season. What kind of growth does he show in year two? You're hoping that is a good amount, but you can't really bank on that if you want to win consistently, right? Like the safety position is so important to that secondary, and if you're consistently, like we saw last season, lack of communication, getting beat deep, like you have to have a backup plan in place if that doesn't work out. And I think if Blackman's signed, he's plan A and Richardson's plan B. So I'm on board with that absolutely. And then like you mentioned with Mike Hilton, bringing in competition for that nickel would not be opposed to that either. I know you're not a big Cho Smith-Wade guy, Ricky, but I'm
not anti Shaw Smith-Wade. I just don't think it should be handed to him.
Which is fair. I don't think anybody should get anything handed to them on this team except for T-Mac and Bryce Young. But yeah, I'm thinking, bringing in veteran guys like this that are proven in the league is something that absolutely should be considered for this team. But in regards to Dallas Goedert, I wouldn't hold my breath on that. I think they've added to the tight end room through the draft. They've signed Trimble back in free agency. They have JT Sanders from last season. I think that tight end room's probably pretty set right now. And then they got the dude that's played like one down of football in his life for competition. So I wouldn't imagine them making a big splash at the tight end position at any point this season.
Yeah, I'm not going to reiterate. I'm fairly along the lines of what Bryson said. But Ricky, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Merrig play initially deep safety? He wasn't as great at it, and then they moved him in the box, and he was much better.
Yeah, he's better closer to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. So why are we playing with that? Like that?
The thing is, he wasn't bad at playing from depth either.
But I thought he was much better. He's
much more comfortable. Yeah.
Yes.
I think he's much more comfortable. And I think that's and honestly, when they signed him, there was a lot of talk about the versatility too. It's a nice addition to have that to your game, but it is smart to play somebody where they are absolute best at if you're able to do that, right? And I think that they have enough time here to make sure that this roster is set up that the guy that they just paid a bunch of money for in free agency, they're getting the most out of. I wouldn't make that a mitigated signing just because you want to be versatile. I would play him where he's best, and then I would take it on the chin. If you're not going to sign somebody else, I'd take it on the chin with Damani or Lathan as your free safety.
All right, Ricky, let's get your reaction.
Yeah.
I want to know,
and I'll do this.
How did you feel when his name was uttered out of Roger Goodell's mouth at pick 8?
I mean, honestly, man, I was excited, but I was also shocked, a little bit surprised. And now I can say this, that the three of us, we've had conversations before, and I mentioned that I had heard from somebody that Teteroa McMillan had interest and support in the franchise or in the organization as far back as December. So, I mean, this wasn't something that I had never heard there was interest in. I think that it was real, but I think that they did such a good job of doing the opposite of what this front office has done on draft night, that when they look like they are absolutely just schmoozed by a guy, they usually just are, right? And Jalen Walker was there for the taking, and they decided that they didn't need to take him. Now, it came out afterwards about the shoulder injury that's likely to require surgery. Perhaps that was a deterrent as well, or perhaps they really just had the higher grade on Teteroa McMillan. And for me personally, that's not crazy. And I say that because I had Teteroa McMillan as just as high of a grade as Jalen Walker. I think that Jalen Walker, there was a lot of questions about what do you do with him. There's not a question about what do you do with Teteroa McMillan. You get Bryce Young to throw him the football, because what this guy does, he's a wide receiver, and he can receive the football in a wide catch radius. And he doesn't drop the ball very often. That's a good thing. There's a lot of conversations happening right now, some even by, former Panthers wide receivers, that they like to talk about a receiver who's not good at being fast, and that's a big problem. But I'm going to tell you this, man. How many clips did you see last year about a guy not being fast enough to make a catch, as opposed to a guy not having the hands to make a catch for Bryce Young? Because I saw a whole lot more dropped opportunities than I did see an opportunity because he just didn't get behind a defense. Tight window throws are something that Bryce Young has shown he is fully confident in trying to make, and he put them in the tight windows. He put them in his receivers' hands, and those receivers dropped the ball too often last year. I know Steve Smith likes to think that David Moore is our speed threat. Well, that speed threat also has rubbery hands. So yeah, that's a funny part to begin with. And I know I'm starting to get like all riled up here because I think it's just a very stupid thing. And I think it's also just the thing about Tetero
Well,
McMillan.
he's doubling down on his own like ranking. It's like, dude.
Yeah, dude, it's a petty thing. He's got some other stuff going on. He even alluded to it in the video, man. Like he says, I might get to meet Tetero McMillan because he's in Charlotte. I'm in Charlotte. Maybe we'll meet, maybe we won't. I don't know. I got a lot going on. And they kind of chuckled. Yeah, we know you got a lot going on. You fucked up. We know that. Like it's all over Front Street, right? But the part that I would say is that just seems very petty. And I would love it if our classics, if our GOATs, if our legends of this franchise didn't have pettiness towards new young players that are coming into this franchise. That I'll just leave it that way. He's also a national analyst. He's not Carolina Steve anymore. And I think that once we wrap our heads around that he is a content creator and he's a national guy, he's not Carolina Steve. He doesn't care about what we're doing. That's fine. I like what we're doing. I love this pick from Tetero McMillan at number 8. I wouldn't have been upset if they went defense. And Curtis, you brought it up that you thought that they needed defense more, right? I think that there are definitely more holes on defense, but I don't think that there was a really tightly put together unit of wide receivers either. And I think it would be different if you had a premier tight end. Then you could look at it and say, hey, those wide receivers who maybe don't have that alpha, don't have that true one, that's okay, because we also have this threat of a weapon at tight end. We don't have that. That's supposed to be Jatavion Sanders. I think that you're a little bit ahead of yourself if you think that Jatavion is there, or if you think he will get there, that might be a little bit ahead. But I think that what happens with Tetero McMillan, Xavier Legette gets a lot of pressure off of him. Those drops that he had last year, a lot of that was mental. Like I really truly believe a lot of that was mental, and that when pressure got underneath him, he cracked a little bit, and that's okay. He was an NFL rookie, dude. I'm not being like crazy about that. That doesn't bother me. That doesn't make me think that he's toast. I think he could be a very good player. You talk about the Panthers not having any speed on the roster. Guys, remind me, did Xavier Legette run like a 4.5 or a 4.6? What was it that he ran? Because what Steve Smith seems to care about when he talks about being slow is 40 times. And why I say that is because he says that Jaden Higgins, who you guys know I'm a big fan of, Jaden Higgins is he's a faster receiver, though. He likes him better than Tetero McMillan because he said he offers speed. The only reason that anyone would think that is because of a 40 time. And I'm going to tell you something, man. I watched Jaden Higgins play a lot, and I fell in love with him. I thought he was a terrific prospect. And he did not play as fast as Tetero McMillan did. He did not run away from guys. He did not run around guys. No, he's not, dude. Like, it's just so crazy that they sit here and they do all of this. Look, Tetero McMillan is going to offer a really good thing for the offense. The second round and third round picks are what made it all come together, in my opinion. I think you have to look at it as a collective, because if you do isolate it, then sure, maybe you could look at it and be like, man, they missed out on a lot of defensive prospects. But they didn't, guys. And I'm excited to get to those next picks because I think that makes this pick look even better. He
ran a 4.47 even at the combine. Like that.
Yep. And for his size, that's terrific. But 4.47 and 4.56 or whatever, 4.55, whatever it is that Tetero was unofficially timed at his pro day, we're talking about a 1/10 of a second difference, guys. And that's in track running. That's not playing on the field. That is a negligible difference for guys that are 6'4". I just think that it's crazy, and I think that people are trying really hard to find reasons not to support this pick. Hey, if we've learned anything from the previous seasons, just wait a second, man. Like, let these guys get on the football field. Bryce Young was throwing with this guy for a month before the draft. Bryce Young was banging the table for this guy for a month. He was going into our general manager's office and telling them, we really like this guy. And our general manager also really liked this guy for a damn near half a year before taking him. If we really think that we're that much smarter as fans than the people running the franchise, take a step back, man. like stop.
Touch some grass.
Yeah, touch some grass, man. Like, and I'm saying this as someone who has strong opinions and thinks that I know a little bit about stuff, but these are guys running a football team. So I'm gonna let them do their thing. If it fails miserably and they fall on their face, I'll be the first one to criticize it. I got no problem doing that, man. I'm a reactive person. But if they can work this out, this gives us a solid wide receiver one for a long time, man, with Bryce Young.
Well, and we gotta let these guys like see the field. Like, let's pump the brake. Yeah. Let these guys play on Sundays before we start judging the picks.
Yeah. Oh, I think Panther Bo misunderstood what you said there, Bryson. I'm not sure that's the same grass we're talking about there, Panther Bo.
No, Panther Bo. Wrong grass. Put it down.
That's the right grass still. Go for it.
So one other note that I think is really cool to talk about with T-Mac is his already very clear relationship with Bryce Young and his admiration and respect for Bryce Young as a quarterback. Like talking about watching him and Bryce being a role model for him coming up through high school and then like him making comments in media that he without a doubt can see Bryce Young in like a couple of years being the face of the NFL. Like that kind of like respect and belief in your quarterback is not something that you like fake, right? He genuinely is excited to catch passes from Bryce Young, and that makes me even more fired up about the pick. Like you don't have someone coming in and it's the Carolina Panthers, the team that's been down for so many years. Like this guy's excited to wear our jersey and excited to play with Bryce Young. So another just A+ aspect of this pick for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I got to shout out because I found the guy's name and I feel awful for not mentioning him. Moritz and Kai, those guys from Germany. I wanted to get that out there. Go check them out. They do have a podcast. I think it's like we Keep Talking Panthers Football or something like that. But go check them out. Those guys are really cool and they do would appreciate the support. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I want to mention real quick because I didn't even get to talk about it was actually getting to meet Tetero McMillan, which was cool as hell. If you're at the draft and the player in the first round was drafted by your team, they come out and take a picture with all the fans in that section. That's how it worked. I expected Jalen Walker. He's in Salisbury, celebrating with his family. I didn't think we were going to get the opportunity. Honestly, I thought if Mason Graham fell, maybe Carolina goes that route, we might be able to see him. But I did not expect to have someone come by us in that section. So when he was picked, I knew that was the case. I immediately got right up to the front of the group. I was kind of like in the third row. I'm like, when he comes, I am asking him to get a picture, like a selfie. And so when he came over, we all took a picture. You all saw I got the selfie. My wife like peeked through, photobombed in the back. I felt bad that she didn't get in there. I didn't really even tell her what I was doing. I'm like, I'm getting a picture with this guy. I'm not missing the opportunity. But anyway, he was getting pulled away by all like the national media and the Associated Press and all these other folks that were trying to take pictures. But before he left, I like tapped him on the shoulder. I'm like, dude, we're expecting a lot of touchdowns between you and Bryce. And I can't remember exactly what he said. But he's a cool dude. He really is. He's a good guy from the brief interaction we had. So I just wanted to share that with you guys because I thought that was really cool. I do want to ask. He's got
a great personality, right? Like, yeah, I don't understand why fans. Yeah, I don't understand why fans are like, this dude doesn't sound like an alpha. This dude doesn't give off, wide receiver one vibes. Like, dude, he seems like a really cool dude that connects with Bryce Young. And maybe I'm old school here, fellas, but I like it when a wide receiver and a quarterback like each other. That makes me feel good about what's going to happen on that field.
Exactly, and from a number one, because there are a lot of teams that have that friction with the number one wide receiver. So I do want to ask you guys this. It's a hypothetical. I don't know if I want to go down this route, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you think Carolina goes wide receiver with pick 8 if Xavier Legette had a better year last year? And that could be for any of you.
Yeah, I don't even really know how to answer that, to be honest. Like, it probably wouldn't seem as critical, maybe. Like, they might have been able to look at somebody else and say, weighted best player available as opposed to just best player available. But I don't know. I still think that they would have needed a wide receiver. Like, I still just don't think that room was finished. So, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, you have an aging Adam Thielen, right? And maybe if Legette's season was a little bit better, they kind of weigh maybe they take one of those trades that were offered at this spot. Like I think there were reports that it was the 49ers and I can't remember the other team, the Rams, that were trying to trade up for this player that we drafted right here. Do any of those teams know anything about wide receivers? I don't know. Probably, but yeah, I think it probably would have played a little bit of a role. I mean, I can't sit here and lie that if Xavier Legette had a season like Brian Thomas Jr. did, would we be considering wide receiver at 8 again in the first round? I don't know, but all I can say is I'm happy that Tetairoa McMillan's on my team. And if it cost a kind of letdown season or not up to par season from Xavier Legette the year prior, it is what it is.
Well, isn't the interesting part of that, though, that Brian Thomas Jr. did have the terrific year that he had, and they went and drafted Travis Hunter?
That's true. So, that's very true.
So he's going to play wide receiver, too. I think it's just showing you exactly what, we just talked about here. One is great, but more is better. Like, give your quarterback more than one option. Make a defense account for more than one option. It's not a bad strategy.
So I want to go to this comment because I'm not going to ignore it. I wasn't ignoring you, C3 Anthony. I was just getting through a couple things. I'm not going to apologize to you and Alex about the – I don't even know what you want to call it. I got to watch my words wisely here. The BS you were spewing about T. Higgins. Because I don't think there was any involvement there on Carolina's end. I will say they clearly thought wide receiver was a big enough need to go and get it at pick 8 and had conviction on Tetairoa McMillan. So I will say you were right on that aspect. But I don't think at all they were ever in on T. Higgins coming to Carolina. So I will leave it there, but I will not deflect from your question. I wanted to make sure I answer that because I know – I'm shocked Alex isn't in here. That guy's been like missing the last couple.
Shit.
Well, for folks that are just tuning in, we are doing a draft giveaway. We wanted to let you know that we got a little ticker going across. If you comment on tap, you will be entered. If you send us a super chat, that'll give you 3 entries into the Wheel of Death. Where you get no, it's not the Wheel of Death.
Wheel of Death. That's a crazy thing to call a prize wheel.
Christ. We promise you will not die.
You won't. You're gonna get a cool hat.
But you will get. You'll get a chance to win a draft hat, the one me and Bryson are wearing right now. But let's get on to the next pick here, and we're going to start on with Ricky on this one because this was one of his guys that he talked about during our mock draft that he was looking at late in that first round, early second. And I'll say, Ricky, you and Dan Morgan shared the same sentiment with this guy. So tell us about Nick Scorton.
Well, old Dan and I went and hit the links one nice fine Thursday after. No, I'm just kidding. It was a really fun moment for me because of the fact that I liked this guy as much as I did, honestly. I was probably as high on Nick Scorton as I saw most analysts out there. I think that Trevor Sikkema actually was one of the only ones. Was it Trevor or Connor? Or maybe Connor. It might be Connor Rogers. Had Nick Scorton as his edge 4 as well. And that was the highest that I saw him. I'm very excited that we got him for 2 reasons. Let me start by this. There was no reported interest with Nick Scorton, right? This was a guy that I think they probably felt very similar to what I wrote in the Carolina draft guide about Nick Scorton. He falls in this like no man's land when it comes to where our picks were and his draft range, apparently, is that I thought that if we're at 8 and we don't see another one until 57, he's going to go before 57. I thought he had first round talent. I had a first round grade on him. Dan Morgan did as well. We find out, yesterday, I believe it was. Nick Scorton is 20 years old. Guys, like he cannot buy a beer. And he had 10 sacks at Purdue as a 19-year-old. Then he transfers closer to home to Texas A&M. Texas A&M, man, they do things similar to Georgia in the responsibilities that they ask their defensive front players to handle. It is difficult. He put on 25 extra pounds. Now, when he was asked about that, you got to give him credit for this too. When he was asked about it, he didn't say that was Texas A&M that asked him to do that. He said that he was a little bit undisciplined when he got to Texas A&M, and that for the position that he was playing, it made sense, right? They had him playing a lot of 4-eye. They had him playing a lot of 5, a lot of 6 technique. I think where he is best suited in the NFL, first of all, he's down 25 pounds, 257 pounds, 6'3", 33-inch arms. This dude has the power profile that I absolutely love for a rush backer. And that's what he's going to play in our 3-4 base defense. He's a rush backer. He's going to be able to give you some looks, though. 2-hand stance, 4-hand stance, stand up, wide 9, 7. He's going to be able to play a lot of different roles and alignments depending on what they want him to do. That's the beauty about Nick Scorton. He's not a designated pass rusher. He's not a DJ Johnson just set the edge because he can't do anything else. And he has a world of untapped potential, I think. And the flashes that he showed at Purdue that even carried over, man, when he was 280 pounds on that frame. They carried over to Texas A&M. People like to talk about Shamar Stewart. Shamar Stewart was in that Texas A&M offense for years. Nick Scorton came in 1 year with all those other responsibilities, putting on 25 pounds, and he outproduced 3 years of Shamar Stewart's production. 3 in his first year in that system as a 20-year-old. This is a very high upside pick. It is also a pretty smart floor pick, in my opinion. I don't think that Nick Scorton comes out and looks overwhelmed by the physicality of the NFL. I don't think that Nick Scorton comes out and doesn't have an answer on counters when he does meet one of these large offensive tackles. You can watch his matchup against Armand Membu in Missouri, and it'll show you. Even if he gets stonewalled a couple times, dude doesn't give up. You saw him draft night, knock all the hats off the table, right? This dude's got dog in him, man. This dude wants to be great. You talk about his coachability. He stays after. He wants to learn, understand the whys of what he's being asked to do. It's not just, hey, can you do this? Physically, yeah. But why do you want me to do it? That is how someone gets great, in my opinion. So I am ecstatic with this pick. I think that he's an Evero guy. I think he's a Morgan guy. And I think very soon, I mean sooner than later, Nick Scorton is going to be a fan guy. This fan base is going to absolutely love this kid when they unleash him and he shows what he's capable of.
Bryson?
Yeah, speed, size, strength, length. I mean, he's got it all. The craziest thing to me is, I tweeted it out too, like, me asking about this player in Ricky's rankings, like just identifying him as someone that stuck out as like, okay, Nick Scorton's a little higher than I've seen like other people have him. So Ricky, tell me a little bit about him. Like the week prior to the draft, and then this is the guy that they go out and get. Like that just blew my mind. I was like, I gotta find that clip. I gotta tweet it out because this was like Ricky's guy. Like Ricky had him rated higher than most people, I think, consensus boards had. I questioned him having him over Donovan Ezeraku, and turns out he's a Carolina Panther. And I listened to Dan Morgan on my local radio station, 99.9 The Fan, with Tim Donnelly, driving home. He talked about how his drop off in production doesn't concern him. Going from Purdue to Texas A&M, his tackles for loss was still there. His disruption in the pocket was still there. Everything was still there at Texas A&M besides those sack numbers, and that just didn't concern the Panthers at all. This was a guy they had a first-round grade on. They traded up. They got him. I agree with Ricky. He's going to become a fan favorite. Like, just knocking those hats off the table, like, was an instant, like, viral clip shared amongst more than just Panthers fans. Like, man, this kid is a dog. And I say kid, and I mean kid. He's, like Ricky mentioned, he's 20 years old. And he's bringing in youth to that position that we need so heavily, even though we drafted someone last season to play it, but he came in almost retirement age to play edge. So Nick Scorton, hell of a pick. I think it paired perfectly with taking T-Mac in the first round. And then we're going to get into the next pick after this, but loved it. I think they knocked it out of the park with the first 3 picks we're going to talk about.
I just love that they got a guy that, they had conviction on. Like, I don't knock teams when they have conviction on dudes and they go out and get them. Like, I don't think they really had a ton of conviction on DJ Johnson. They just panicked and, okay, this is the last guy at that edge spot. We're going to get him. This was a guy they really liked. They wanted. They obviously traded up to get him. And I can't knock that. I don't know a ton about this dude. I watched one game of his a couple days ago against, I think it was LSU. this dude's he's a powerful.
Good matchup with Will Campbell in that one. Yeah,
exactly why I watched it. This guy's a powerful motherfucker, and that's what I want out of my edge rushers. We didn't, Brian Burns had that speed. This guy's got power. I mean, this is a powerful dude. And I love that. And we'll talk about the next guy who's got the speed and the bend. So you get both of them. And that honestly why I love what they did with these next two picks. When they did go wide receiver in the first round, they went and got two edge rushers back to back. And I think that was really important because I think they needed to do that with how many holes this defense has. I'm not going to lie. I was really hoping Ezeraku fell to them. He went 7 picks before to Dallas. I honestly thought he would slip. And I think once Ezeraku went, I think Dan was getting a little uneasy and he's like, okay, we need to move up and get Scorton here. Because Dan did mention there was a little run there. I think it was back-to-back edge rushers in that second round. And then Carolina, a couple picks later, moved up. So, and then after that, I'm looking at, Femi went next after Scorton. And then I think there was another edge rusher as well. So there was a little run there at the second half. But I remember the second round sitting there, I'm like, the edges are slipping.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Can we talk about that too, though, for a second? I don't mean to interrupt you, Curtis. And first, before we do that, let me acknowledge first Shannon Bass. Thank you for the super chat. Let's cheers Shannon Bass for the super chat. And you've been entered 3 times into the hat giveaway. Cheers. But I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about exactly what you're talking about too, Curtis, because I thought that what they did with the trades, man, was so perfectly timed and executed. Like they waited just long enough to get really good value. We saw what the Brant tell us. There was a quote out about him that if you're going to trade up for a position, it should be quarterback. But if you're going to trade up for any other position, it should be pick swaps. You don't trade future picks, right? And you don't lose capital. I think that when you look at the fact that they did that and then being able to recoup the picks later in the next trade, when we talk about that, they waited until Nick Scorton got to this point. And maybe it was because they had him and Donovan very similarly graded, right? And when they saw Donovan go, they might have said, all right, look, we got to be ready to strike, guys. Like if one more person goes and it's not Nick, we need to be ready to go. And when that happened, they went, but they waited and it was only 6 picks ahead of them. They didn't have to give up a premier pick to move up to get him. They didn't have to give up a future pick to get him. And then with the next picks, you look at it, they recouped some value. Like they got back into good standing. I just think that we have really got to tip our hats, man, to this front office for this draft, not only for the players that we like. That is all very subjective right now, right? Because we haven't seen them play any football. It's guys that we like. It's positions that we feel like make sense. But the process of this draft for the Carolina Panthers was one of the cleaner processes I can remember in years, guys. And I know I have been very vigilant about saying Dan Morgan's he's drafted for his job this year. And he's building a roster for his job. And I think that what I am seeing right now from this early stage of just the draft and free agency, hats off to him, dude. These guys are killing it. Shout out Eric Eager. That's the vice president of analytics for the Panthers.
PFF guy, right?
PFF guy. Or Sumer Sports. Sumer Sports and PFF, I believe. He was last with Sumer Sports, but then PFF before that. Phenomenal, man. And like I've read articles that Dave Canales is a big analytics guy, loves EPA. That's one of his favorite analytics that he uses. And just to see the way that they're building this team, dude, it's like new age and also watching tape. Because some of these guys you wouldn't look at, right? Based on testing and stuff. Ben Davis, thank you very much, man. I've been waiting all week for this show. Ben, make sure you check out the ticker on the bottom of the screen, man. For anyone that's come in here, I see Pyromaster 154, also Dom. People that have not commented yet so far tonight, you'll see the ticker on the bottom. Comment on tap to enter for a draft hat. We are giving one away. It's the same hats that Curtis and Bryson are rocking for you right now. Go ahead and just throw that in there. A super chat gets you 3 picks, and we will draw that at the end of the night on not the Wheel of Death, but the Wheel of Prizes.
Yeah, that pick swap they did was so interesting because it was a lot of rounds, and you're like, oh shit, what are they doing here? But they didn't drop back too much. It was still in that range where it was comparable. You're like, damn, this isn't that bad. And so I love that. and people are saying that was inspired. I think it was the Professional that put that out. Yeah. Oh, sorry, my bad. Yeah, I thought that was another thing I wanted to mention. I thought it was very interesting because most of the time it's like, yeah, second for a second, and that they're second, and maybe like a fifth rounder. And it was like, no, it was like second, third, fourth, and they just kind of swapped around, which I thought was interesting. Let's go to the next pick. So they double up on edge rusher here, and God damn it, I wrote this down in the Google Doc so I would pronounce this guy's name right. So it's Princely Umanmielen. Umanmielen. I looked it up. I heard him sound it out for a guy in a YouTube video I was watching. So I'm making sure I get this guy's name right. Princely Umanmielen. Love the name. This guy had really good production this past year. He played alongside Walter Nolan as well. Two guys that are Walter Nolan, a guy I really loved in this draft. But to get this guy in the third, I remember when we did our mock draft, we were hoping this guy was going to be there in the second. And for them to get this dude in the third round, none of us expected that. And I think our projections of where this edge rushing group fell within the parameters of all 32 teams, obviously those guys slipped. And we're talking about an Ezeraku late in the second round at pick 46 or wherever he went. Scorton at 51, and then Princely in the third. Like, this was a dream draft board for how Carolina played the draft early on, going T-Mac at 1. It fell right in their lap the way it went. This could have been a whole different draft if they went T-Mac 1, Scorton went early, end of the first, early second. Princely went early second, and Carolina's sitting there like, shit, we don't have an edge rusher. So I think the draft really played into their favor of how they went with that first pick. And man, I mean, we're reaping the benefits of it. To double up at edge and still get these two guys that they got, it still makes me really excited. And it makes me even feel much better about them going wide receiver at 1 because they got some really good talent in the second and third, and they hit on those. I think they're going to hit on those guys. So
exactly. No, I think that's perfectly said. Bryson, what do you think about Princely Umanmielen?
Loved it, man. I really thought, like, I tweeted at the time, double up on edge during the draft. Like, him being available in the third round, I really didn't think was a possibility. I seriously didn't. I've been a fan of his throughout this process. We've drafted him in multiple mock drafts here. The speed off the edge, the bend, Curtis mentioned it. It's impressive. I think, did he have 10.5 sacks in his fun season?
Yep.
Double-digit sacks on, is impressive.
Bro, it's right on the screen.
that says 11. That says 11.
That's where I pulled it from. They said 11.
Bryson is just recalling the accurate statistics from the Carolina Draft Guide. Good job, Bryson.
Yeah. Thank you, Ricky.
I actually think I pulled these from your draft guide, so you better check your numbers.
I mean, look.
Well, then these are completely correct for everybody watching.
We'll give him a half more just because he's a Panther, all right? So he had 11 sacks last season. Disruptive player off the edge. You're adding another player that's going to compete for a spot on this team, a starting spot on this team. I really think that he has the ability to come in day one, make a difference on that edge, in that edge room, and add juice to that room that needed it so desperately, man. They really did. So I love the pick. I love doubling up on edge. You take wide receiver in the first, and then you go edge with two high-level prospects that all of us were high on. I mean, it was like, I don't even know, dude. It was like a dream. Really, it was this draft for me. In my opinion, the way that I wanted it to go with T-Mac at 1 and then going edge twice, it was spectacular. I loved it.
Yeah, and I will say that is from the draft guide, so those are correct. 10.5 was an incorrect, so good job, Curtis. You know my work better than I do. I appreciate you for that. Before I give my take, let me bring up Nick Steens.
Yes, thank you.
Who, by the way, also Nick Steens had said before the show, he was like, man, I hope I can catch it live. I'm not sure, but I look forward to watching on Spotify. So, Nick, I'm glad you got in here so you can
cheers, Nick.
Give away too,
and
man.
Steve,
cheers.
Where you're from, I believe he's an international listener, if I'm not mistaken.
There was another international guy that you may be getting confused with that says he hopes to get into a live at some point.
Maybe that's what it was.
I think that's who you're thinking. Yeah.
Appreciate it, Nick.
Yep. Cheers to you, buddy. Okay, so Princely, you guys kind of nailed it, man, for what I think about it too. I just think that the combination, right, of the power profile from Nick Scorton and then the speed profile with Princely Umanmielen are such complementary skill sets. And Princely right now is likely going to be a designated pass rusher. I don't think you're going to see him playing the bulk of downs. I don't think you need that, especially if they do hang on and retain Jadeveon Clowney. I know there's a lot of conversation about that. Yeah, there's a lot going on around about that right now. It doesn't make a whole ton of sense to me, but Princely has the opportunity to come in on third downs and just pin his ears back, man. The player comp that I had for him in the Carolina draft guide was Will McDonald IV, who also was one of my guys in the year prior that I was way higher on than everybody else, and that the Jets took a chance on early in the first round, and everyone was shocked about outside of me because I was like, that dude is a baller. It's the length. That's one thing that we have not talked about tonight so far. Over 34-inch arms. Like, for a dude who relies on bend and his ability to corner and really just beeline to the quarterback after blowing by a tackle, he's not going to run through a guy as often. That doesn't mean that he's weak either, though, man. I don't want that to be misconstrued. He's got some speed to power ability, but his main thing, man, is he's got tremendous bend. And for a guy who's 6'4" to have that bend, it causes some problems, man. If he can start to accurately time his hands at the release and time his punches, I think he's got a real chance to be one of the more disruptive pass rushers in this league. There is just a little bit of work to being a every down guy, right? You see it right there. Princely said he could squat 700 pounds. I saw the video of him squatting damn near that. I think it was like 630 or something. But like, he's not weak, man. He's got power and he can generate it. It's about the technical ability to burst off that line. He's got a great first step, but can he use the leverage at 6'4"? Can he get low enough to rise up into a guy with his power, right? Because he's got enough burst to get off and get to the tackle's hip on the outside of him and then force him to bend. You don't what these tackles don't want to do with a 6'6", 6'7", 6'5", 330-pound dude. What they don't want to do is have to lean down and try to move laterally. They don't want to do that, man. It ain't easy. Like, I'm gonna tell you as a fat guy, it ain't easy to move around laterally. I got a 4'2" kid that is speedy as hell, and I feel like a lot of times I'm trying to block Princely Umanmielen when Max starts really revving his engine, and it ain't easy, man. He gets by me a lot. Okay, so I think that when you look at this combination though of Scorton and Princely, what a smart way to build that defensive front. What a smart way to rebuild that edge room, because Pat Jones and Jadeveon Clowney are still there. And Pat Jones, as a rotational player, is going to be fine. I worried when it was Pat Jones as your, edge 2, that he's supposed to be the guy that causes disruption to get sacks on his own. I don't know. I didn't see it. It's very similar to DJ Wanham, who's also still in the room. Like, Jadeveon Clowney, DJ Wanham, Pat Jones, Princely Umanmielen, and Nick Scorton. That is so much different than what we saw on the field for the Carolina Panthers last year, fellas. Like, imagine what we were watching. I posted a clip of the Washington Commanders game, just one play, just of the run defense. But I also looked at the jersey numbers out there for that play, and I was like, what is this shit? Who in the hell is this guy who is supposed to be rushing the passer? Like, this is crazy, man.
They pulled him from the stands.
They pulled him from the stands, dude. Like, and LeBron Ray, God bless him, man. He's got some sort of, kryptonite attached to his jersey or something because the franchise loves him. But these guys who are just on the team last year because, like, hey, we need bodies type of deal. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, dude. Please, by no means take that as me saying these are untalented guys. Like, every single person that plays in the NFL is a talented physical person. But there are levels. When you see great NFL teams, they are stocked with elite talent. And I mean, even their depth, dude, it's elite talent. It may not be the elite of elite, but those guys can win. And that's why they're on that team. Our team was literally stocked with a bunch of like, yeah, I saw him play before. Like, it was outside of a quick stop, but I saw him playing, and he had some moves in that parking lot, dude. Like, you ain't never seen a guy with gator boots run as fast as that dude did in the quick stop parking lot, right? I don't want that. I want the guys that I can watch SEC tape on. I want to see them going against the best of the best, and I want to see them winning. I want to see production. And Dan stayed true to his word, man. They stayed true to their board, and they stayed true to production and talent, and they went and they got their guys, dude. So Princely Umanmielen, Nick Scorton, terrific. Absolutely fantastic.
All right, let's get to the fourth round here. Trevor Etienne, the running back. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. The fourth round, I was scratching my head a little bit. I'm not gonna butter all these picks up. I'm just not gonna do that. But let's go to the running back.
You knew he was gonna do some sort of pessimistic shit at some point today, right, Kurt? Right, Bryson?
Oh yeah, he has to.
But let's talk about the running back. So Carolina, 1,000-yard rusher last year in Chuba. They go and get another 1,000-yard rusher and sign Dowdle after cutting Sanders. They draft Jonathan Brooks in the second round, tears his ACL again, so he's out probably for this next season entirely. And they go out in the fourth round and draft another running back at pick 114. Yeah, I was not expecting running back at this point. I was expecting it probably fifth or sixth round. If I'm being honest, they clearly value this and want to be a running team with all the resources they've put to this position. Now I get it. There's a lot that has transpired with injuries, and they still. I mean, I don't knock them for trying to find a replacement and someone better than Blackman, because I don't think they really value him in that room at all, to be honest with you. And I just think they think he's a returner, and he's probably not even going to get that job this year. The way they, went out and got some guys in both the draft and undrafted free agents. But yeah, they get a running back early. I would have liked a safety probably at the spot. I think Bowman was the only one that went after this pick before they went to safety, the next one, I believe, if I have that correct. But what were you guys' thoughts on Etienne here in the fourth round?
Yeah, I mean, he's a running back that doesn't have a whole lot of carries under his belt, right? He doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires. So you're getting a younger guy. I think he's going to be 21 when camp starts. Played at Florida, transferred to Georgia. Has some speed, has some power. Obviously, like you mentioned, Curtis has the punt return and kick return abilities. Was it my favorite selection of this draft? No. I kind of lean towards your kind of sentiment towards this pick. It was very shocking when they announced it. Almost as shocking as the 8th overall pick for me, at least. I did not see them going running back this early either, but I don't hate it. Like, he has some upside. You don't know when Jonathan Brooks is coming back. I think he could be a good change of pace, kind of like a smaller power back for this team. He's got some ability in like the screen game, got some home run ability, but I think at this position I would have liked for them to draft a Billy Bowman, who I was higher on than I think probably anyone else. I really did like what he brought, and then of course he gets drafted to the Atlanta Falcons, I believe, which really sucks. But I think at this spot it could have been worse, right? But I think this pick adds some value to this team. You don't have that question mark if Chuba goes down. Obviously they have Rico, but like, what does it look like with a change of pace back if that happens, or if Rico goes down? We're looking at Jonathan Brooks, who isn't coming back this season. Who is that third running back? And I think this answers that question. So I like it in that aspect, but if it were me, it probably wouldn't have been the pick at 114.
And before Ricky jumps in here, I'm not just saying safety, because even if they liked Lathan Ransom and they went with him first, there's some corners, and I know Ricky's not a big fan of this guy, but Quincy Riley was out there. I would have preferred that pick. If it wasn't this one, the next one where Ransom went, and you would have got another corner, because that depth room, we'll talk about this later, that corner room, if a guy goes down, that room looks pretty damn thin. So, and I don't think the running back room is very thin right now, personally. I think you got two very viable backs that if one goes down, the other one's going to keep up with the load. So I was not a big fan of this pick. I don't hate it, and I want to see what this guy does on the field. Obviously, I give every person a chance, but there was other guys in that area that they could have went after that I would have preferred, and I thought was a bigger need, but maybe they didn't value them as much as I did. But go ahead, Ricky.
Okay. First, I'm going to bring up Clay Wright on the super chat. Clay, appreciate you, man. It's one of our good listeners on X as well.
I'm running out of beer, boys.
Got a beer.
I'll get another one.
Do you have more? Yeah. What do you mean? Cheers, Clay. Appreciate
Cheers,
you,
bud.
Clay indulges in another way for our monumental long episode. So cheers to that.
And while you talk, Ricky, I'm going to run and grab another beer.
Good deal. You're gonna want to play this segment back, Bryson, because I'm gonna convince you that this was a good pick. But
all right, I'm staying. No, I'm staying.
Okay, listen. Here's what I'll say about Trevor Etienne. Okay, his tape shows a guy that is outstanding on making multiple cuts and multiple moves in tight spaces. We call that a phone booth runner, right? You put him with defenders in close vicinity of him, he can still make you miss. What the Carolina Panthers did not have on their roster was a guy that could do that. Chuba Hubbard, as much as I love Chuba Hubbard, and I am as big of a Chuba Hubbard fan as you will find, I will be at his camp on Saturday, running drills with him, right? I'm not going to be running drills. My kid is, but I'll be overseeing it. But I love what Chuba Hubbard does, but Chuba Hubbard is a put your foot in, plant, and go. That is what he does. And it works well for the zone that we run. Rico Dowdle is very similar. He does the same type of thing. Trevor Etienne, and here's what you guys are talking about, like we have Raheem Blackshear. I thought about this the other day, guys. Raheem Blackshear is getting into like Ian Thomas type of territory.
Dude, I'm not saying – hold on. You might have misconstrued what I said. I'm not saying we didn't need to go get another guy.
No, right. You just didn't want him here at this pick.
I think Raheem is probably out the door, to be honest with you.
But he's out the door now.
But I want to make that clear so folks don't think that. I'm not saying, Blackshear. No.
But what I'm saying is, like, he's getting to that point of he's been on the team for 3 years, and everyone wants to talk about, like, this could be the year. He gets more involved. This could be the year. He's decent at this. All he needs is opportunities and other things. He never got those opportunities because I just don't think that they've trusted him with those opportunities, or they felt good about giving him those opportunities. I think by going up and getting Trevor Etienne in this pick, what it tells me is that they really liked him, because Jarquez Hunter was on the board too, and they had a 30 with Jarquez Hunter. They might not have even expected Trevor to be here at this point. And part of that might be, part of the allure might be because of the kick return ability. His return ability is going to be a huge bonus when you consider what he brings to this team. I think that they are looking for juice. I think that he brings it. I think that his pass catching ability out of the backfield is a part of his game that he showed to an extent, right? He has very natural hands, very soft hands, but I think he's actually a pretty decent route runner out of the back that you could see him used in multiple ways. And I think that what they're saying is, I'm good continuing on this trajectory.
Bryson wasn't sold. He left for his beer.
No, I figured he wouldn't be. But I think what they're saying, though, and I love this, to be completely honest, man, is why are we sitting here saying that guys who have been decent, guys who have been okay, and guys who can make the depth chart just because we don't have better options, we'll bring in better options. Like, and that's what Trevor Etienne is. He's going to push. And if Raheem makes the roster, it's going to be because he beats Trevor Etienne out. But Trevor Etienne's skill set also works with a backfield of Chuba Hubbard and Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks is your best pass blocking back. So when he comes back, that's one of the parts of Trevor Etienne's game that I'm not sold on. He's a little bit slight. He doesn't do the best job. He's physical. He's willing. But he's got a small
199? Is that what he is?
Yeah, 199. And he's also one of the first under sub 200 pound running backs that Dave Canales has ever been involved in drafting. Like, on any team he's ever been in, it's only happened one other time, and the other time was 198 back too. So, like, you talk about the trends and the things that we've tried to figure out.
Who was that back?
I can't remember. It was somebody for Seattle. I want to say it was like one of their return specialists again. But it's just an interesting thing that when you think about it, what they're saying is that they liked him more. Now, Billy Bowman, I know that that's a guy that everyone liked. I liked him too. But what we found out when they drafted the guy that they did draft and didn't take Billy Bowman's tackling woes were probably too much for Carolina to stomach. And they have been very, very intentional on not bringing in guys that struggle to make tackles. And they want to be a more physical football team. That is something that Billy did struggle with. And I don't think they care about sorry, what were you saying?
I didn't know a ton about, honestly, I didn't know a ton out of the top safeties in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we're kind of bleeding into the next pick is they took a guy who was similar play style to Merrick, and that threw me off. In that he was better, at least from the outside looking in, perceived as a better box safety, nickel type guy. And that kind of was like, okay, where are we trying to go here? That's kind of what threw me off in this whole fourth round, to be honest with you. But
I think the interesting thing about that too is that maybe that's a bit of a misconception about Lathan.
And it is, and I've seen that. I've seen Dan Morgan say this guy played, like, you look at his numbers, he played deep safety a lot, honestly. We might as well go into that next pick while we're talking about him.
Yeah, that's fine.
Where he played a lot of, the deep safety, and he did play in the box too, and he's got some versatility. But that is kind of I think the misconception is like this is the big hitter type safety. He's gonna knock you, but
he is.
Yeah, maybe we're wrong.
He is. No, he is the big hitter type safety. Yeah. He is gonna put the pop on you. But I posted a couple clips today after, again, listening to WFNZ, Mac and Bone, and Dan Morgan talking about it. Like, this is not a guy who is only comfortable close to the line of scrimmage. That doesn't mean, though, that his prowess, that his proficiency is not still the physical element of the position. It is. His coverage is not his best place. He's not the most fluid athlete. He has the ability to open up his hips, turn them, and run and mirror from depth. But when I say that, though, here's the important part, and here's why I say that he's not a box only safety, is because he is a downhill player. You don't do a lot of downhill playing if you're close up to the line of scrimmage. You do a lot of downhill when you're keying and reacting from depth. That is where Lathan Ransom is terrific. This is a really smart safety, and I don't know if you read the Carolina draft guide, and we talk about this too. The football intelligence part for the secondary in this, Evero scheme
and
or
safety, safety is huge. You need to be smart.
It is critical, man. It is absolutely critical, and it gets you in position to make the right plays. That's where Lathan Ransom excels. So I think that this pick makes a ton of sense. I am higher on it, and I also think
on it a little bit.
And I think that it gives that interchangeability that I think they are forced to do. Man, that scheme, what they want to do is force the quarterback to do all his work post snap. You have Lathan Ransom and Trayvon Merrick out there, and you have them playing too high or one high, have the open field close or middle of the field open, middle of the field close, and then you rotate post snap. Either one of them can rotate, and the quarterback has to account for where either one of those guys are to identify what the coverage is and potentially who is coming on pressure looks or who is playing nickel. It opens up a world of post snap like trickery in disguise that I think Evero covets.
Well, and I know Dan, and when Dan, I think most of us have seen by now the niche interview he did at the Combine, I think it was, and he was talking about traits of all the defensive players, and he said safety needs to be the most knowledgeable. If you're not knowledgeable, you're not going to make it in this system.
And so, if you watch Lathan's tape, he is consistently calling out on communication. He is constantly calling out recognition and adjustment.
That's why they took him. And he is a big hitter. I mean, I've seen some of the plays. I mean, he'll
lays him out, dude. He comes screaming downhill.
So, it kind of reminded me of it was like the running back room. Like they got Dowdo, who's very similar to Chuba, and then they get Ransom, who I thought was kind of similar to American. I'm like, okay, thought we need maybe like more of a ball hawk guy who's going to be able to cover deep, but this might work out. We'll see. And we'll see how much faith they have in these guys, depending on the free agent signing. If they go out and get the Zach Hernandez was talking about before him is escaping me, the guy from the Colts,
Julian Blackmon.
Yeah, if they go and get him, that guy's the starter. Like that's what it's going to happen. I mean, there's no secret about that.
Yep.
If they don't and they wait and maybe bring in some just veteran presence in that room, I think it's going to say a lot about Ransom and what they think of him and Damani Richardson. We can't forget about that because that guy towards the end of the year, I know I'm a big fan of him, but towards the end of the year, I thought he played pretty solid at points. I don't think he's a surefire starter, but I do think at points he could be a spot starter for this team.
This comment from Joko, I've seen this multiple times. I'd love to get y'all's opinion on this too, but I've seen multiple people say this. Like, why are we getting another Jeremy Chin style role or whatever? For me, there is a gigantic difference. Jeremy Chin is what you would consider a quote unquote hybrid. I think that he was a positionless guy that didn't fit either of them because he didn't do either position terrifically, like at a high level. I think that he was. I think he was a linebacker. Well, because people think that Lathan Ransom is a Jeremy Chin just because he's a physical player.
Yeah.
Jeremy Chin was not a safety. Jeremy Chin was a linebacker in a safety's body, but he didn't have the agility or the athleticism. Well, athleticism he has, but he didn't have the lateral agility. He didn't have the ability to recognize coverages and move laterally, right, on a horizontal plane to play deep coverage. You could not put him deep. That's not Lathan Ransom. Lathan Ransom is not a hybrid. Lathan Ransom is a versatile player. There is a significant difference for me between a hybrid and a versatile player.
Yeah, and Jeremy Chin was a safety or a linebacker in a safety's body who couldn't cover at any position.
Right. Right.
Always out of position.
I could go on a rant. I'm not even going to get into it. Let's go to Panthers Bo's comment quick, and then Bryce, you can jump in here. Cheers to a future drafting of more Big Ten players. Produce something. Damn it, Bo! You're trying to push your new Boilermaker bullshit. That's what that is?
And Panther Bo, you now have 3 entries in the hat giveaway. So congratulations on that. Don't forget, everybody, check that ticker.
That's his fourth.
That's his fourth.
That's his fourth. Gotcha.
Yeah. Cheers to your piss beer over there.
Piss beer? I don't know who you're talking to. You talking about my Michelob Ultra?
No, I was on about his Coors Light that he's been drinking.
Okay.
But we appreciate, for folks that don't know, we're doing a draft hat giveaway. You put on tap in the comments. If you do a super chat, it's 3 entries into the draft hat. We are going to pick a winner at the end of this episode, so stick around for that. And Panthers Bow Purdue still sucks, so we'll keep to that agenda.
Up to 36 entries in there too. So everyone, you still got a chance. You get 3 of them in. You're still around that like 10% clip. You're getting close to it.
Bryson, anything on Ransom while we're talking about it?
Yeah, DAWG dog.
There you go.
I mean, I'm not going to read. Yeah,
it's good.
I'm not going to reiterate what you guys said. You know, I do think that he has some versatility. Like the common, like the consensus is that he's a box safe. Like he's playing to stop the run, and he doesn't have coverage abilities. I do think he does. And I think it was a good pick. I actually like this one here at 122. So I'm not going to reiterate everything you guys said, but I was a fan of this pick.
Maybe Smitty will like this guy a little bit better because if there's one thing Lathan Ransom does, it's rearrange things.
Oh,
shots fired.
Noted.
Right. Let's go to the next pick here. God damn it, Ricky. I love it. We got a big motherfucker in round 5.
Curtis got excited.
Hell yeah, we did.
140. Carolina going D tackle here. This is a big specimen, dude. And this was a guy they brought in. We talk about, I believe this a 30 visit, Ricky? You might be able to help me on
sure
this.
Was.
Yeah.
Sure was.
So everyone that wants I know there's, it depends really on the team, how they handle 30 visits, but Carolina clearly brings in guys they're interested in. And that's been proven with a lot of their draft picks over the years. And that's why we appreciate Edgar Salmingo's work, who's co-host with Ricky on Draft Crush. There you go. That's a free shameless plug there, Ricky.
You're so kind, man. Thank you. You're like Edgar almost, how kind you are.
But yeah, I mean, I love this. I think
know,
as much beef you can add to this D line, I'm all for that. For how bad they were last year, I don't care what they did in free agency. Keep adding that room. Give us depth. That's what they need. They don't have depth. We need depth. So I don't knock this at all. And I think this guy he'll be a rotational guy. And if we can find a way to get that guy from the Saints that's escaping me, who came over from the Saints,
Tuttle
out of that room at some point, I'm all for it. So, yeah, I was a fan of this pick.
Depth at the position. You can never go wrong there. They added to the D-line. They continue to do that. This guy's the beef, the chicken, the pork, the ground turkey, everything you want. Every meat you can name, that's what this guy is.
Tomatoes, potatoes, yam. That
one. You said it best, Curtis. He is a big specimen. And I would not want to line up against him to try to block him and stop him from getting to my quarterback. I'll just say that. Like, he's got some juice to him for a big dude. I think he's got some pretty impressive get off for his size, disruptive. In the middle of the defensive line. Again, I think adding him with Derek Brown and Tuttle and Bobby Brown and Wharton, is continued depth on that defensive line that we did not have last season. So we're not going to be wondering who's playing defensive line week in and week out across the whole entire defensive line. Like we did last season. So another impressive addition, in my opinion.
I was into this pick after being a little bit bummed out in round 4, because at the beginning of round 4, Joshua Farmer was still on the board. And I thought that was a tremendous upside pick. It was a guy that I know, Curtis, you and I had talked about many times. And Bryson, I think that you were involved in one of the mock drafts that we did as well, that all three of us agreed that we were like, hey, if Joshua Farmer's on the board, I think it might have even been 4th round pick.
I think so. Yeah.
That we were all just like, dude, if he slips there, take him, right?
Yeah.
He was another guy that they hadn't met with, but he met all of the parameters from like that strength. Dan talked about it, right? With his interior D lineman, he wanted to be bigger, stronger, with long arms, right? That's what he said. So Joshua Farmer just felt like this perfect bullseye of a prospect. But then when he passed over him, I was a little bit bummed out, guys, because I thought that you should keep on adding depth to this defensive line. I'm like, I know that they got some good players, they got decent players, but they have some role players, they got rotational players. I didn't know if they had a young guy that was a space eater, that was a power dominant guy outside of Bobby Brown. And I don't think you can have just one of them. The Eagles don't have just one of them, right? The best teams in the league don't have just one of them. So I thought Joshua Farmer was going to make sense. But then all of a sudden they take Cam Jackson. And I'll be completely honest, man, I almost forgot about Cam Jackson during draft day. Because when they announced him, I was like, shit, he's still on the board? And it's not that he should have maybe went earlier. That's not necessarily what I think. I think that this is a round where he should go, because this isn't a guy who's likely to play more than north of 45, 50% of snaps. I think that would be unrealistic to assume that off the gate. But Cam Jackson is a guy that when he gets his pad level correct and he fires off, good luck blocking him. I mean, this dude has incredible power that comes from his lower half. This is not Deion Walker, by the way, who is also gargantually sized, but I compare that to kind of like a giant marshmallow with a couple pretzel sticks at the bottom walking around. Like, this is not that. Cam Jackson is stoutly built from the top down, and he generates marshmallows everywhere. He generates. That's right, man. He generates power from the bottom up. Now, even when his pad level is not where it's supposed to be, he still has the hand strength and the upper body strength to just torque offensive linemen away from people. You'll see it all over his tape. Now, where he's going to find his ceiling, right? It's how much can he offer as a pass rusher. And there's going to be a little bit there. He's going to be your nose tackle. He's got the length. He's got the ability to play gap and a half like we want to play in our defensive system. But his ceiling, man, is tied to his ability to get into the backfield, which he can do. He's got quicker and more gentle feet to move up and down that line and to get into the backfield than you would anticipate for a guy who's 6'6", 338 pounds. It is pretty impressive. I think that he's got a world of potential. He's got a little nastiness to him too. So once again, man, I don't think that I got a negative thing to say about this pick.
Where was this? Did we miss the second trade, or did we discuss that? When was the second trade? There was a second. Wasn't there another one?
Princely.
Oh, wasn't it?
No, Princely.
I thought there was another trade, or maybe not.
140. No, there was, but I think that Princely was I think we did move up for Princely, right? Yeah.
I think so.
I can't
think we
recall.
did.
I was drunk. So
I think we did. I think it was
Yeah,
Princely where we had the second trade.
I was just making sure we had.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Princely because we didn't do anything on day 3 trade wise.
Okay. Well, let's go to the next one here. And Mitchell Evans. So we get another tight end in the room, which honestly I don't mind. I think that room, we need as much fresh bodies in that room as possible, if you want my honest opinion. But Mitchell Evans. I know this was a guy that JJ, Panthers Culture, when we had him on, was pushing for when we did our mock draft the couple nights before the draft. Notre Dame guy. You guys know how I feel about Notre Dame tight ends. But thoughts on Mitchell Evans in the 5th round at 163? Do you guys think he can make something shake for that tight end room, or you just think this is a depth piece? He'll play special teams and maybe get a chance here or there.
I really do think he can make some things shake. You mentioned JJ talking about how he thinks that this guy could come in and be better than Trimble on day one. Don't want to quote him on that, but I think it was somewhat of that he thinks Mitchell Evans can make more of a difference than Trimble can on this team in his first season. So I think Evans brings a lot in regards to his pass catching abilities, his route running. Honestly, Curtis, if you're not going to like me for this, but I think Mitchell Evans is better than JT Sanders. From what I saw in year one, I wasn't super impressed with Sanders. I think he got better throughout the year.
That's when Adam Thielen came back. He was rolling there for a bit.
Yeah,
keep going.
I mean, it's not that I don't like JT Sanders, but I think Evans' upside is higher than JT Sanders is. So I think adding him to this room with Trimble, I think this is the most promising tight end room that we've had since Greg Olson's been here. I think you've got a bunch of young guys, hungry to make a difference on the field and earn their spot. So I really like the addition of Evans in the 5th round. I thought it was a good value pick. I kind of bought into what JJ was saying about his ability on the field. Watched a little bit of tape on Mitchell Evans, not a lot. I'm not going to lie. Like I didn't sit here and grind hours of tape of Mitchell Evans, but I do think he brings some upside to that room that really needed it, honestly. I've been defending Trimble for years, and honestly, like, this is my last season, dude. I'm calling it quits after this year. If he doesn't show me something, I'm done. I'm throwing in the towel. I'm throwing in the towel on Tommy Trimble, man. Like I can't sit here and continue to look stupid year in and year out. Like, this guy, next year's the year. So I think, JT Sanders still has upside, not counting him out whatsoever. But Mitchell Evans, I believe, has more upside at this point.
God, Alex comes out of nowhere. You missed the chat. You missed the discussion on McMillan. Alex, I am disappointed in your ass. Ricky, what do you got?
Okay, so first, Alex, what's up, man? Glad you're in here. Glad you're entering into the draft hat sweepstakes. James Cody, we got you too, bro. Thank you for coming in here late as well. Before I get into Mitchell Evans, there was one thing that was brought up on Twitter, and I wanted to talk about this when we got to Cam Jackson, because it was a more organic thing. And now let me do my Mitchell Evans things first, and then we'll go back to it then. Mitchell Evans.
Hold on. I need to ask Alex about this refereeing thing. I don't trust you as a referee, dude.
Can he be bought? You think that he could be bought, possibly?
Slip him a 20, you're getting every call.
Yeah, 100%, man.
And what do you referee? I want to know. Tell us in the chat, but tell us about Mitchell.
Like the Tim Donnelly. Isn't that the NBA guy that was taking all the bets and stuff? I think that's it, man. All right, so Mitchell Evans for me, I'm a big fan of Mitchell Evans. I had him as my tight end 9 in the Carolina draft guide. I also had, I believe, a 4 Panther head rating on this one. Again, it's pretty remarkable, man. Again, not to toot me and Edgar's horn here or anything like that.
Oh boy, here we go.
But we had a lot of really good fit ratings, especially on guys who had no correlation with the Carolina Panthers. I'm just gonna put that out there. So it's more on Edgar. Look, anytime anything good happens between me and Edgar in our show or the draft guide, understand it's more so about Edgar. I am the one who's just kind of holding us down. So it's terrific to have a partner to lift you up like that. Anyways, what I was going to say about Mitchell Evans, tight end 9 for me. I think that had he not had the ACL injury, this guy was looked at as a potential 2nd or 3rd round pick coming into the season, or coming into last season, and the way he was producing was looked at as a potential day 2 pick. I don't see much. Look, at the beginning of the year, he kind of had to ramp up, right? Watch him in the college football playoffs. Watch him at the tail end of the regular season. You start seeing exactly why this 6'5", 260-pound tight end was revered the way that he was. He's got very natural soft hands. He's a quarterback's friend of a receiver. No, he's not an ultra dynamic athlete, but that's okay. He's a good enough athlete, I think. I put it in there on the guide that, like, once he catches the ball, the play typically stops more often than not. That's okay, because guess what? He also catches the ball pretty well. And we need a guy who has the route running ability, right? Mitchell Evans has that. Mitchell Evans has good feet in the route running phase. He has good salesmanship. He has these subtle nuances, right? The shoulders, the head fakes, the hands. He does a really good job of selling the routes that he runs. And he also runs a more diverse route tree than a guy like Ja'Tavion Sanders. And this is no knock on Ja'Tavion, man. I'm not trying to make this a negative thing about Ja'Tavion Sanders.
Knock on him. It's all right.
No, it's not. It's not. But
we'll remember this.
No, but look, my issue with Ja'Tavion always, man, and I always got criticized because I didn't have him in my top 3 tight ends the year that he came out. And everyone was like, dude, he's an obvious tight end 2 or 3, like at worst. And I didn't have him there. I didn't think that he had the athleticism or the route running that showed me anything more than a red zone threat. I think that Mitchell Evans can be a complementary player to what we have on the roster, and I think he can be a chain mover. I think he can be a guy that lines up in line or in the slot. We talk about Dave Canales wanting to run 12 personnel. Mitchell Evans is the kind of guy that allows you to do that, and that's with Ja'Tavion or Tommy Tremble. That's the versatility that you need, because if you're running 12 personnel with Ja'Tavion and Tommy, you're not going to get great blocking out of Ja'Tavion Sanders, man. But if you have Ja'Tavion and Mitchell Evans out there running 12 personnel, you got to account for both of them as pass catchers, right? Like they're more proficient pass catchers. But if you got Mitchell and Tommy, you honestly have no clue what they're going to do. You talk about being multiple out of a same formation, running different concepts. That's what these guys could do. Hey, guess where Bryce Young looked really sharp a lot last year? No huddle. Wouldn't you love to put the pressure on teams running 12 personnel, running no huddle with Xavier Legette and Teteroa McMillan as your wide receiver? Then you got these 2 tight ends, and then you got Chuba Hubbard and Bryce Young. You telling me that doesn't sound interesting to you? That they have to figure out how to match up with that physical of a personnel package, and they can't sub out? Man, I'm just saying, like, it's an interesting thing when you start playing around with some of the possibilities. Mitchell Evans, I had the comp of Pat Freiermuth. That doesn't necessarily mean I think he turns into Pat Freiermuth, but the way that he plays the game is very reminiscent. And I'll stick by that, man. I think he's an adequate blocker. I think he's an above average pass catcher. And I think that if you use him as a complementary piece, he can provide some real value. So I thought this was a nice pick.
I need to watch more of this dude, because I don't know a ton about him.
He's good.
I just know what Tommy Tremble provided, and I'm not a fan of that up to this point. But
the thing I wanted to talk about real quick, though, Curtis, if I can, because this is a question I have to pose to both of you. I was asked on Twitter, do we think that this draft and free agency did enough for the defense for Evero? Because that is a conversation that we've all had before too. But now that the draft is over and we see what they did, it was James Hines.
Can we answer that after this last one?
Sure. Yeah. Think about it, and we'll get to that at the end of the draft.
No, I think that's a great question. Who asked? Maybe you can tell us.
It was James Hines on Twitter, and he brought it up because he was saying, like, the Teteroa McMillan pick, he wanted defense because he wanted Evero to have his chance.
All right, let's go to Jimmy Horn here, and then we'll get to that question. So Carolina going another wide receiver here. This guy's going to give you a return, flexibility, and probably going to be a returner. I think this is the guy who's going to. I think was he a punt returner at Colorado? I believe. Is that right?
Colorado and Southern Florida. Yep.
Yeah. So and he's got some speed to him too. Don't hate this pick at all. I think Carolina was smart getting another wide receiver. I didn't expect them to go Jimmy Horn here, to be honest with you guys. So I don't mind this at all. I think this adds, again, add depth to that room, churn the roster, compete. Let's see what these guys can do. We have the David Moores of the world that we can maybe recycle out of here. Like and maybe they don't. I know Dave Canales is pretty high on him, and him and Bryce had a pretty good connection last year, but he's definitely not one of the fastest receivers in this room, whether Steve Smith wants to say it or not. But yeah, I don't mind this. I mean, add as much as you can, and let's see who comes out on top out of this wide receiver room. I don't hate that at all. So I don't mind this pick whatsoever.
I really think that this is a guy that's going to make 53. I think he's going to be in that room when cuts are made. I think he's probably the 6th wide receiver on that depth chart. I do like his versatility. He adds on special teams and in the wide receiver room, brings speed that Steve Smith so heavily covets in this room. I think he played second fiddle to Travis Hunter, right? Shedeur Sanders.
He covets some other things too, but we'll stop.
Maybe a tuba player.
A goalie.
The tuba players in Carolina better watch out. Please go home to your husbands. But I think this is a guy I was saying played second fiddle to Travis Hunter for Shedeur Sanders, who did not have a lot of time to throw at any point in any game because of his offensive line and how bad it was. So I think that played a role into his numbers. You see the 1 touchdown, 400 yards. But I think he's got some upside, younger guy, speed. He's a 6th-round pick, brings, different aspects of abilities that he can add to a team in regards to special teams and offense. So didn't hate the pick at all. I thought it was a little bit surprising. I agree with you, Curtis, but I'm happy with it. I really am. I think this is a guy that makes the roster.
When we get down into these 6th and 7th round picks, often what we talk about is you're looking for a guy. Yeah, you're looking for a guy that has either outstanding physical traits, right, or special teams contributions. And a lot of times a little bit of both is what you're looking for, that you can develop those traits while they contribute on special teams. Jimmy Horn Jr., what makes so much sense about this pick is that he can contribute right away as a punt returner, right? I think that immediately this is the guy that I want returning punts for the Carolina Panthers. I don't want to see David Moore returning punts for the Carolina Panthers. Raheem Blackshear was good at returning kicks. I think that goes to Trevor Etienne. At returning punts, Raheem Blackshear.
Was he good at returning kicks? I don't even know if he was good.
He led the league. He led the league in yards per kickoff.
But he also had more opportunities. I think someone did a thing where he outpaced
opportunities.
Everyone.
Yeah, but opportunities don't make you get better yardage.
No. But there was a stat.
You could give me a million opportunities to return a kick, and I'm not getting 28 yards, buddy.
There was a stat where it kind of skewed actually why he had more yards than what it showed. So let's just take that with a grain of salt. Maybe, I don't know,
but I also think that he was pretty decent at it. I think he was pretty decent, but. Yeah. I think that when you remove that, though, okay, I'm saying get him out of there for Trevor Etienne. So I'm not going to argue too much with you here about him not being good enough to keep the job. But as a punt returner, he was even more shaky. His hands were not reliable fielding punts. He did not have great vision of getting up the field quickly. Jimmy Horn Jr., we talked about Trevor Etienne being that phone booth running back. Man, this dude right here, Jimmy Horn Jr., he is dynamic. He is electric. His acceleration, his ability to get to top speed, top gear, and I don't know why my video is freezing there. Sorry about that. His ability to get to top speed is pretty effortless. And I think that what he brings here is that if you can kind of harness his route running to a little bit, right? That I think that he can absolutely turn into a difference maker, not necessarily as a primary receiver, but maybe as a, complimentary gadget type of receiver, maybe like a Devin Tompkins, if you will. I think that makes some sense. So, yeah, I think that for what this is, I think that it's a pretty good pick. Sorry, I was trying to work out my video issues while speaking as well, and I think that I've at least
you did a great job. I mean, you really did. It was a smooth transition.
Walmart and fix your dial-up connection.
I know what the hell is happening, man. It's like somebody hit a gas line outside my house.
Curtis is so ready to fire shots at internet
connection.
No,
yeah. Wait, man. I've never once had any kind of issues with connection, and then all of a sudden, one day, Curtis is over here just like, yes.
Yeah.
Panthers, Bo.
You fogged up there, Frosty. Yeah, I know. Sorry, Bo. I apologize about that.
Well, let's get to your question here because I think it's a good one.
Yep.
So hit us with it. Who said it? And
all right, so it was James Hines on Twitter, and we were having a conversation about the Teteroa McMillan pick, right? And he was saying how he doesn't have an issue necessarily with Tet, but he wanted very much for this to be a defensive pick because of how poorly our defense has performed, and that Ejiro Evero has never been given a premier defensive draft pick to work with, right? Or a couple of defensive draft picks. So I thought, and what he said is, have we done enough to fairly judge Evero this season? Because I think there's been some excuses in the past about like, look, he's, chicken salad out of chicken shit type of deal. Have we done enough? Yeah, but have we done enough now with free agency and with the draft? Have we given enough that you feel like you can evaluate Ejiro Evero as a defensive coordinator fairly and adequately?
I'll start because I'm a Evero truther. I do think they did enough this year. I thought they spent heavily in free agency. Obviously, Milton Williams was the top target of their plans, and that fell through once New England threw him the bag. But I thought they added some pieces for him in free agency and spent heavily on that side of the ball, not only with the defensive front, with Wharton and Brown and Jones, and there's another guy that's escaping me, the linebacker that they got from the Rams.
Roseboom.
Yeah. Roseboom, thank you. Mm-hmm. They go and get Merrick and spend a pretty penny on him as well. So they got him pieces, and then they double up at edge in the second round. They get him a safety in the fourth. Granted, I do understand it. Like, he has not gotten a first round defensive pick since he's been here. So I get that. But from where they were last year and what they've added, I do think they've given him enough this year and depth wise, where you can make a pretty valid evaluation based off of how terrible it was last year. And you need a considerable bounce back, I think, for him to stick around. If this defense is like 25 and below, like 25 to 32, I think he's probably gone. But if they make a considerable jump from what the pieces they made, granted, I at least was hoping for a defensive guy in the first round. I think they did with Scorton and Princely, where you can have a pretty decent evaluation. Now, I'm going to question, I'll be honest with you, and this kind of dovetails into the question before of what Ricky brought up. If they get rid of Clowney, I'm going to be scratching my head a little bit because that does not make sense to me at all. And I get you're a developmental team. I know Canales has said we want to play our rookies early, but for a rookie to play behind and come in situationally behind Clowney, I think is beneficial. And to learn some of the tools he's got in his tool bag, I don't know why you would want to get rid of that. There's no disruption there at all. This guy, I don't think he's wanting to leave. So for them to just come out and be non-committal on him and Dan Morgan, it does sound like he's on his way out. It does, to me at least, from what I've heard from Dan Morgan. That I don't like at all, if I'm being honest with you. But I do think what they did in free agency and in the draft, I think, has been enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think you go out and you spend over $100 million on the defense and free agency. You go back-to-back picks with guys we just commended, being great selections at the edge position. You spend top money at the safety position and then invest in that position again in the draft. I think, you talk about him not having a first-round pick on the defense. He's worked with Derek Brown. He's worked with Brian Burns. I know both of those guys were kind of not there last season. So he's got some leeway there, but he's worked with high-level talent before. So I think, you spend that capital in free agency and in the draft if everyone stays healthy. It's a big if. If we're looking at next season and these guys are out and, we're back to square one, then it might be a different conversation. But I think even really if that's a scenario, that's the case, he's probably still gone anyways. But I think if they stay healthy and this team underperforms on defense with guys like J.C. Horn, another first-round pick that he works with, guys like J.C. Horn, Merrick, Derek Brown, and this defense is out there struggling like they were last season, yeah, I mean, Evero might as well start putting his resume at other places before he's even fired, because I think it's going to happen.
When I look at what they did on free agency, I think that's where my opinion starts to form. Because I think that when you look at what this team was lacking last year, right? Anyone could run on us. I mean, literally, Bryson, I'm pretty sure your dogs could go for at least $125, $150 on the Panthers defense of 2024.
No doubt,
right? But then you look at also there was no pass rush and there was nothing from the defensive front. Anytime that we did get pressure, it came from extra people being sent. I think bringing in Turk Wharton, even if it was a contingency plan, it makes a ton of sense for what he does and what you're asking him to do. Bobby Brown makes a ton of sense. Bobby Brown is a guy who has kind of that Cam Jackson vibe of he's a run defender, but he's got a little bit of untapped potential of getting penetration into the backfield behind the line of scrimmage. And I think they're going to look into that and see if they can kind of facilitate that and nurture that element. You get Derek Brown back. You sign Pat Jones Jr. and Trayvon Merrick. So those are just the free agency moves, right? And Derek Brown coming back from his injury. Just that alone tells me that they told Evero, hey, what do we need? What do you need to make this better for you? That's what I think, at least, right? That seems like somebody who is controlling the defense had say in those moves, because those are intentional and those are direct moves. Then when you talk about the draft, I mean, look, man, Evero doesn't play rookies all that often anyways. So getting the second round guy in Nick Scorton, who had a first round grade from the team, that is a premier pick. That's very much a premier pick. And doubling down on Princely Umanmielen, who again is a premier pick and probably had a second round grade from the team, if I had to guess, then those are two pretty legitimate defensive players. Lathan Ransom screams Evero, downhill player. I mean, that is the scheme. So all of that just makes so much sense to me. And then Cam Jackson is fortifying that defensive front. For me, it all makes so much sense that I look at it and say the secondary is probably where I would say there is still softness, right? Like there's still some fat in that secondary that I would love to replace. But that's also where Evero makes his hay, right? Isn't that where he's supposed to be at his best? Is in the back half of a defense. So if he got the safeties that he likes, if he got pressure that he can create without having to send extra, yeah, I think that it is completely fair that if we judge Dave Canales as a head coach and an offensive coach with the talent on that side, I think it's okay to judge Evero this season with the talent on the defensive side. I think that they have done a great job of adding.
All right, let's go to undrafted here quickly, and then we'll go to the next couple of questions. So they brought in a long list of guys. I'll just start. The biggest question for me was kicker. Who are they going to bring in to compete with? God, who the hell did they bring in? I can't remember. I know Bryson knows.
Matthew Wright.
Yeah, I knew you'd know Matthew Wright. But Ryan Fitzgerald, a guy who didn't miss a kick last year. I think he hit like 4 or 5 50-plus yarders, including a 59-yarder. I'm pulling for him. I hope he wins the job, to be honest with you. I know he had he kind of had a shaky start, it sounded like, at Florida State from what I saw from one of the longtime fan who actually commented on one of our posts. It was like, hey, Florida State fan here. He struggled early on. He made a switch, I think I want to say his sophomore year. And then I don't remember exactly what the switch was, but after his sophomore year, he he got considerably better and has kind of turned it around. So it'll be interesting to see that kicking competition. We had one last year, and I don't think we will ever have to see Eddie Pinheiro again. So that's always good to hear. But yeah, that was one that popped off to me. I know they signed a guy, and I think it was from Miami, Jacoby George. That'll be interesting. It sounded like they gave him a pretty big a boost, at least for an undrafted free agent. They signed him for a couple $100,000, I think, if I remember. And then Musim Muhammad III, obviously the son of a Panthers great wide receiver. It'll be a cool story. We'll see if any of these guys make the team. We all know Jalen Coker last year. He didn't make that initial 53 cut. Panthers cut him, and then, they played with a little fire, took a little roll of the dice, and he ended up sticking on practice squad, which he got lucky because he showed out once he saw some playing time. But any guys from this list for you guys that pop off?
I guess I'll go here. Luke Kandra is the one that I would point at. I had a 4th round grade on him. I also had Jared Harrison Hunt. I had a 5th round grade on him. I believe those are the only two that I had
Luke's
graded.
Position. I'm sorry.
That's all good. I had them in there, and then I know everyone loves Tua Nomura, the linebacker out of Fresno State. I don't know. He's undersized. We'll see how that works out. But this regime, I would be surprised if they want a 220-pound linebacker. That doesn't seem to fit their modus operandi. The one guy I think that I like that I haven't seen all that many people talk about is Isaac Gifford, safety out of Nebraska. This is a guy that was a leader at Nebraska, hard-nosed defense. Played a little bit of nickel, played a little bit of deep, played closer towards the line of scrimmage, was his better. But this was a pretty smart football player that I could see absolutely making some waves as a special teams player. Kobe Hudson and Jacoby George are going to be really interesting too, though, fighting for that wide receiver 6 spot, because both of those dudes have juice in their dogs. And so you give them an opportunity to unseat David Moore potentially. Man, I think those could be a couple sharks smelling blood in the water, to be completely honest. I really think that they're going to look at that and say, why is this dude guaranteed a spot and not me? And if that makes David Moore fight so hard that he becomes better and earns his role, I'm good on that too. I don't care who wins it, but I want someone to actually win it. Bam Martin Scott also, I think Bam Martin Scott is the linebacker that I would look at out of that group over Tua Nomura, personally.
Bryson?
Yeah, Ricky or Curtis, you took my shine talking about the kicker. I think we were all Borregales fans here on the show, at least. But Ryan Fitzgerald was, I think, commonly known as either kicker 1 or kicker 2 in this draft. Depending on who you look at. I was a big fan of Fitzgerald. He was kicker 2 for me behind Borregales, but this is a guy who hasn't missed a 50-yard kick in 2 seasons. He didn't miss a PAT last year. I think this is the kicker of the future right here for the Carolina Panthers. I don't have high hopes for Matthew Wright. I think he filled in admirably for the Chiefs last year when Harrison Butker went down, but this isn't a guy that is super consistent, especially with those longer range kicks. And I think Ryan Fitzgerald is, and I think he comes in and wins that job. And we're looking at Ryan Fitzgerald week 1 as the starter at the kicking position. These other guys, I'm not going to sit here and lie like I know them, but it seems like Kobe Hudson there's a lot of fans in the Carolina fan base of Kobe Hudson, and him potentially, being a Jalen Coker of last season and an undrafted wide receiver making this roster. I've seen a little bit of his tape, and what I've seen is pretty impressive. It seems like he kind of had some lower combine or lower numbers that he put up, prior to the NFL draft that kind of dropped his draft status. So he was undrafted, but from what he put on the field at UCF was impressive. So I think he comes in and brings some of that mentality or that aggressiveness to try to make the roster and promote that competition at that position for the bottom of that wide receiver room. But my overall favorite, without a doubt, is Ryan Fitzgerald. I think he is the kicker for the Carolina Panthers moving forward.
Did you guys hear JJ Jansen today talking about Ryan Fitzgerald?
I did not.
No, I didn't.
he mentioned that the trajectory, if you look at his collegiate career and like, so Bryson, you bring up that he hasn't missed and real quick, Kitty Lit Zero. I know Alex just left. Appreciate the super chat, man. Cheers,
Alex.
Hope you had a good night.
Love you, brother.
3 extra entries into the hat too. But JJ Jansen was on Macabone again, man. I feel like I'm just shouting them out constantly today, but it was a good show, and they had good guests. They had they're not paying me. I wish. But they had JJ Jansen on, and they asked JJ. First of all, they were like, "So look, when they sign like these special teams guys, right? Like, or they bring in guys, are they asking you the way they asked Bryce Young about these offensive players, right? Like, are you pounding the table for these guys too? Like,
question.
Yeah, they were like, "Hey, Ryan Fitzgerald, do you know anything about him?" And he's like, "Nah, man, they don't ask me about that. I wasn't a number 1 overall pick. They don't give a shit about what I'm thinking, right?" But what he said, and he brought up this really interesting point, because Bryson, you mentioned he hadn't missed a kick from 50 in 2 years, right? But if you look back, did you happen to look at 3 years ago?
No.
3 years ago, he had some serious issues.
Yeah.
3 years ago, he lost some confidence.
You weren't listening to me, were you?
Oh, did you say that? No, I missed it.
Yeah, I said he had a shaky year. His first year, he changed something in his technique.
Listen,
and then
I'm an asshole. I was over here. First of all, I was trying to get the wheel ready. The wheel of Bryson.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to multitask, but I am a jerk. I apologize. Curtis made a great point earlier about the third year that he had 3 years ago. He was very shaky. But what JJ Jansen brought up, he says it's a very similar collegiate trajectory to Harrison Butker.
Oh,
he was
boy.
like,
Here we go.
He said, who we took in the 7th round. He was like, this guy is undrafted. And he said, a lot of the conversations with these guys in the 6th and 7th round, these draft picks, there are conversations that are happening that are saying, hey, would you be willing to come here as an undrafted free agent? Like, if we make you our priority, would you be willing to come here? And if they kind of are hesitant about that and they're like, well, I don't know, man, I think I still got a chance of getting drafted, and they're not gung-ho about it, then they'll draft him, right? They're like, well, shit, we want him. We're going to draft him. But if the guys are kind of like, yeah, man, look, any opportunity I can have, I'm down, and they can already make that like introduction and do this, that might have been what happened with Ryan Fitzgerald. They might have said, hey, this guy's worth drafting at the end of this draft, but instead they might have gotten a really positive feel from him. So instead of drafting him in the 7th, his collegiate career was very reminiscent of Harrison Butker. And if you get hot at the right time, isn't that what they always tell you? Like, if you could build that confidence and you can play, it's not what have you done, it's what have you done for me lately type of deal, right?
As good as your best for last kick.
Last kick.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what he always says. I was about to ask him.
100%. So Fitzgerald is interesting, man. I think that's going to be really fun to watch that play out, because I think you nailed it, Bryson. Matthew Wright is serviceable, right? But that's not your long-term solution, first of all. I don't think you're always going to be open or having open competition. Ryan Fitzgerald, if he comes in there and he looks good, hell, he could be your Evan McPherson, right? That the Bengals had, where he had a little bit of a confidence issue too after his great year. And then he kind of got back on the horse, or back on the Bengal, if you will. And he rode that lightning and looked like a good kicker. So yeah, interesting player, man.
One thing I'll mention, and like Bryson said, haven't done a ton on these guys. I was shocked. I think Borregales went in the 4th, or not the 4th. I mean the 6th. He went the 6th round in New England. That pissed me off a little bit, because I was kind of hoping, but I do like the Jimmy Horn pick. I do like that they went with the wide receiver on that one. But once Borregales went off the board, Ben Souls was a guy I was kind of hoping for out of Pittsburgh. He stayed in Pittsburgh and signed with the Steelers undrafted. That was another guy I was kind of looking at, because he had statistically he had a good year last year for the Pittsburgh Panthers, and then he could have done the Panther. He went from a Panther to Panther type thing, whatever. They could have done that with social media.
That's cute.
But I'm kind of shocked you guys didn't mention.
You remember your first beer too, Bryson?
I'm kind of shocked you guys didn't mention the corners, because that's kind of what I'm like. And I don't know much about these guys, but Thornton and Reed, how much they're going to push this back end of the roster with Bartholomew and I'm trying to see this.
Well, now they got a Caleb Evans, and they just signed MJ Devonshire. They just picked
those
up
guys.
MJ
I'm wondering how these other undrafted guys are going to push that back into that corner room, because it is thin still. It really is.
They both have the size that Evero likes, but I mean, I don't know, dude. Don't you just think that they're going to keep on churning that, like just like they did last year? Don't you think that's just going to
They'll
keep
bring
on
in
going?
someone.
Yeah,
They'll bring in someone, I'm sure, closer to camp, and
that's what I'm thinking too,
we'll
man.
see what happens. But I appreciate Shannon again. That's another 3
Again.
entries, I believe there was another one earlier.
Shannon. I think Shannon's the leader in the clubhouse here on entries. I believe you're up to 7, Shannon. So you got a good chance here. Cheers to you, Shannon.
Cheers. $5. We appreciate it.
And the question attached to this lovely super chat from Shannon: where do you guys think our defense should rank this year for us to say we've made reasonable progress? I appreciate Shannon putting that reasonable in there too, right? Because like even the comment, she's like, hey, temper expectations a little bit. Like I'm not trying to make this seem like we've made monumental steps. But where would you say, Curtis?
I was thinking I almost went a little bit overzealous. I'm trying to be realistic here because we got to remember this historically was the worst defense ever in NFL history. So I would say 18 to 22 range. And maybe fans want more than that. I almost went 15 to 20, but I think to make that big of a jump, that's a considerable jump to go from 32 to 15. And maybe I'm just being, not harsh enough, and they should be, 15 to 20 or 10 to 20. But I think realistically, if we're talking about that, I think you could get to 18 to 22. And I think that's serviceable because if the offense takes a big enough jump that I think we're all expecting, you're going to see a team that, has a serviceable enough defense where, the offense is going to carry the defense is serviceable enough. They're still going to win some games. So that would probably be the range for me. Bryson, what about you as far as where you think from 32 they could jump to?
Yeah, I agree with you, Curtis. I think, if they can get up to like top 20 range, creeping into the teens, I think when you think back to last season and how many one possession games the Carolina Panthers lost, even if the offense does not take any strides whatsoever, with the level that the offense was playing at last season versus the level of the defense that the defense was playing at, I think if the defense makes strides and jumps up 10 spots in overall rankings for a positional unit, I think that makes a world of difference because Carolina lost so many games by one possession. We're looking at a potential win with the Chiefs, a potential win with the Eagles. I think that makes a world of difference if they are able to jump, 10 spots ahead in the rankings. I think it's potentially could be higher based on the health and availability of guys on the defense. But I think if we're looking at the end of next season and this is a 20th ranked defense versus a 32nd ranked defense, I think fans should be happy with that. I really do, because that's progress, significant progress in one off season. And it's only up from there with the potential cap space that we have going into next off season and additions and things like that. So I'm thinking 20 to like 18 range would be, I'd be happy with, undoubtedly.
So Curtis, he said that, Ricky, while you were away.
You said 18 to 22?
Yeah.
I caught it right at the tail end, and I was like, remember that, Ricky, because you got to hear Bryson at his tail end and figure out what numbers are. Okay. So 18 to 22 and then 20 to 18. Okay.
Yeah.
I think realistically you're looking at probably 23-ish. I'm just going to give one number. I'm going to say 23. And so we're all in a very close ballpark, right? The difference from getting, though, from 32, and not just 32, but like deep 32. Boys,
like 38.
Yeah. Like if there was 30 teams, we were the 35th worst defense, right? Like, so we're not just climbing out of the cellar. Like we got to dig out from under the dirt to get into the cellar to then try to climb the stairs into the second or, into the basement and then up to the actual house. That's not going to happen this year, I don't think. But the pieces are there to develop that to happen in the next 2 years, I think. These young players, dude, I don't want to do this thing where we put so much pressure on these young players either to change this NFL defense. Like, that ain't likely to happen. But,
well, they're gonna if they cut Clowney. Like, what are we doing here?
That's what's so crazy, man. Like, honestly, that is what's so crazy about that situation. But what I do think is that the veterans that they brought in serve a role, serve a purpose. Getting Derek Brown back absolutely is a gigantic difference maker. If he's healthy, man, and I don't think he plays 95% of snaps. I think that they've got to ease him back in and not facilitate a re-injury, because there is a way that too much on that lower leg injury could become a significant problem. Ease him into it, man. Rely on the fact that you just spent a ton of money on the defensive front. Play those players, right? You got Ashawn, who had a nice year. Play Ashawn. Shai Tuttle, I bet he's a terrific motivator, right, from the sideline. Like, let him pop butts and, hand water bottles and stuff. Like, that's a terrific way to be. I think that if you could get what you think you can get out of Bobby Brown, you get Derek Brown back, these rookies do even remotely what they're capable of, you should be able to move up 8 spots, I think.
Dude, I completely forgot about Ashawn Robinson. I've talked about the defensive line so many times tonight, and none of us have mentioned Ashawn Robinson until you just did right now.
And he's not a bad player. That's the craziest thing. He was our best defensive front player last year.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And the rotation is going to help all these guys. When they use the word platoon, I think that a lot of our fans just figured rotation, right? And that meant that they were going to rotate the alignment in the positions. So we'd have a nose tackle, then we'd have a nose tackle 2. We'd have a 5 tech or a 3 tech, and we'd rotate them out with the guy that fits that. That's not what they're doing. Platoons is legitimately what they're doing, where they have alignment versatility and role versatility that they're going to be able to put together multiple different platoons. You're going to see times, dude, where I'm willing to bet you Ashawn, Derek Brown, Cam Jackson on the field together. Bobby Brown, Derek Brown, Ashawn on the field together. Turk Wharton, Bobby Brown, Derek Brown. There are so many fun. NASCAR. That's what I'm saying, dude. There are so many ways. Pat Jones might get a look on the inside in a NASCAR package. He's got the length. He's got the ability to rush from a 5 technique, right? They are going to do some things. And when they run out of the nickel, they run the flex front anyways. So they're not even tight about what roles they're asking players to play. They can give a little flexibility. It's going to be really fun, man, because they've never had all this stuff at their disposal. So when we talk about Evero and now we talk about this defense and where they could get reasonably, that's my reasoning for all of it, man. It is all put together in a way that you can build a puzzle here if you want to.
All right, let's get to the couple questions we have, and then we'll do this giveaway here. And let's start with Hunter Renfro. So they brought him in for a visit, I want to say about a month ago or so. And then after the draft, they finally signed him. So thoughts on Hunter Renfro? Do you think this is he will possibly make the 53, or is this just a good story for training camp? That's the question. Bryson, we'll start with you.
He is making 53, in my opinion. I know Ricky does not agree, but
I didn't say I don't agree.
Well, I think I've seen differently on Twitter, but I think this is a guy that obviously took football off last season, and a lot of people didn't know why, including myself, right? Maybe he just wasn't good enough to play on an NFL roster. That's kind of the opinion or consensus that was across the league. Turns out he had a serious medical issue that caused him to have continuous fevers and lose weight, and he could not manage it. He's healthy now. He's back. This is a man that's put up 1,000 yards before in the NFL. I think this is your Adam Thielen replacement in waiting. I think they're very similar players. I know it might not make Ricky very happy, but I think in regards to Bryce Young and what he likes in a wide receiver, Hunter Renfro fills in very nicely for Adam Thielen. Once Adam Thielen's gone after the season, I assume. I think having both of them in a room probably isn't super advantageous for a roster, but I think Renfro adds some very good route running ability. He's obviously not gonna smoke anyone for a 90-yard touchdown, but I think in the red zone he's a weapon, a legitimate weapon, with the ability that he's shown in the NFL. I really do think this guy makes the roster, and I've already talked about Jimmy Horn making the roster. So I in my opinion, that's what your wide receiver room looks like with Coker, Xavier, Legette, T-Mac, and Adam Thielen. So that's where I'm at. I think this guy legitimately does have a spot on this team going into
What
one.
What are you smoking? Because I want some of it.
Well, go for it, Curtis. You go first here.
All right. No, I think this is a camp story. I really do. It reminds me of Tariq Cohen, like a guy you're gonna pull for. He's got to try to work through this health issue that he's had, and he's kind of spoken about it. And I'm pulling for him. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think it's a good camp story, and it's going to be a good storyline to follow. But I think in the end, I don't know if he's going to get back to the form he was in Oakland and Las Vegas, and yeah, I mean that's where I'm at.
I can't wait to clip that when he makes the roster.
So here's my thing with Hunter Renfro, right? The fact that he hasn't played football in a year is significant to me. And I don't really care, and not care, but it doesn't change my opinion on not playing football for a year on what the reasoning is behind it. Okay. So like, I don't think differently about the year off because it was based off illness or whatever, or if it was a year off for mental reset, right? I think that a year off is a year off of playing organized NFL football at the highest level and the demands that it has not only on your body, but on your mental and everything else. Where I will say is that when you hear him talk about the last 2 years that he was playing and about how he was extremely tired and he didn't know what was going on and that it affected his on-field performance, that does alleviate a little bit of the concern about the fact that the last time I saw him play, he looked like a shadow of himself, right? Like he didn't even look like the Hunter Renfro that already, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but the Hunter Renfro that already was getting the most juice out of his squeeze possible for his physical talent and abilities and size and all of those things that were against him in the NFL. He did a great job, man. Like I am not a Hunter Renfro hater by any means. I don't mean that to sound negative. I am questioning when he comes back, it's not just about stamina. It's not just about being able to play the game. Injury risk is something that happens, man, when your body doesn't go through the same rigorous training and strength conditioning and all of that stuff for 365 days. And then you jump back into it, especially when you're adding weight back to your frame. This guy was down to 150 pounds and now he's at 187 and wants to play at 185. It's a big transition of your body and the composition that can have some serious soft tissue effects. And I wonder a little bit about that, how he holds up with that. If he's on the field and he's the same level player that he was prior to the undiagnosed illness that he dealt with, right? Not even just when he got it diagnosed, but the undiagnosed that was affecting him, I think he can compete for that spot. I don't think that it's a shoe-in remotely because I think that what he brings is very similar to what David Moore brings from a athleticism standpoint. I think Hunter Renfro is a better route runner. I think Hunter Renfro has better hands, but I also think that David Moore has the inside track. And that's as a guy who has played in this system that knows Canales, Jimmy Horn Jr., punt return. So there will also be this battle with Hunter Renfro, David Moore, and Jimmy Horn Jr. to be punt returner. All of those things are things that fans could be super excited about seeing at camp. Oh, wait a second. Okay, never mind.
Great transition. Great transition.
You're welcome.
And Curtis is on mute.
So Curtis is on mute, but he's pointing at me.
Segue, but we're not there yet, damn it.
Well, God damn it, adjust your schedule. Like I just gave you gold, man.
We're
like,
getting out. We're getting out.
Look at this gift horse right in his mouth. But no, Bryson, I don't think you're crazy, man, for thinking that he can make the team. And when all of this stuff like came up, it did change a little bit of my perception about it, but not enough to make me say that's for sure. Now, the way they're talking about it, though, they're talking about it like they expect him to be on this roster.
But
I would love to know. The one thing they haven't done, though, is they have not released any contract details.
Exactly.
That's a little bit interesting to me because
but you got to remember
usually
they
could be a
also
hit.
they also put out articles when Tariq Cohen came in here too. Like they did the same thing.
For sure.
Like, hey, he's coming back. He's been off of football for a couple of years. So, but let's talk about training camp, and then we'll get to Icky and we'll end the show. So yeah, I mean Ricky nailed it. Oh wait, we aren't gonna see training camp. Panthers did a really nice job this past year in Charlotte. I will give them props for that as for PSL owners and for folks who got to take advantage of that, being, in the shade, hanging out with Panthers family or Panther players' families in the same section. Like, I loved all of that.
Tremendous.
And then they're like, hey, you're not getting any of that for the next 2 years. And we're pulling you from Wofford. I'll be honest, I did ask folks, and I apologize because I don't know why I brought this up because I don't even remember what they said, but I did ask some of the Panthers folks when we were at the draft, like, they're getting a lot of heat for this. What is the reasoning? And I apologize. I can't remember. I don't remember what they said. I know there was
blue balls. Jeez.
I had to ask about Wofford, and I think I don't want to misrepresent them, but I thought they said something about traveling and players' safety and stuff like that. But I don't want to throw that. Yeah. So, yeah, this sucks out.
Great story.
Hey guys, I talked to him.
Do you know?
I remember what the fuck they said.
You know how every one of those conversations,
I was like, hey, I took you to the ledge, and then I ain't telling you anything else.
Every single one of those conversations at the draft, he was like, "Hey, so what's the deal with not going to Wofford?" Somebody's talking to him, then all of a sudden he looks and goes, "But have you had one of these spotted cows? These things are fucking great."
But shoot, you got me coughing. I almost, and I wish I would have just had the balls. Maybe if I had another beer or two in me, I really wanted to ask Adele about it because I know it was pissing fans off. And if he would have called on me, and I know I had a chance when we took a picture with him, but it was very brief. And the NFL was like, "You're taking a picture and you're leaving. Like, get the fuck out of here," type thing. They were pretty antsy about that with fans, but I did kind of want to ask that. Like, fans are pretty pissed off, and there were people that brought up stuff to Goodell, like concerns they had. So I wish I would have gotten an opportunity to ask a question because they picked mostly international fans, so it's kind of hard to actually get a question in. But I did want to ask that because I know that's pissed off a lot of people. When I saw that, I mean, that sucks. It really does, because people don't realize there's some folks who just can't afford to actually go to a game. Right. And that's the best opportunity they get to actually go and see the team. Mm-hmm. And the way they're trying to build this thing, and it looks like it's trending in the right direction. How are you going to build that excitement when you're not doing these things and we aren't able to see the team's growth through training camp? And I know other teams have done this. It sounds like Atlanta did this as well. They did it
for a year. They did it for a year. Like, yeah. I don't know, Bryson. I don't know, man. Like, I think it's just horseshit. If you want my just plain evaluation of it, right? I think it's bullshit. Because if you know you're not going to have training camp available for 2 years because of construction, then you also have enough notice and foresight to figure out a contingency plan. Yep. And maybe I'm naive here, but if I had $20 billion, I think that I could figure out a way to make that beneficial for not only my fan base, who thinks that me personally, I'm going to role play as Dave Tepper here, right? My fan base thinks that I'm a piece of shit and that I'm a villain. I'm Lex Luthor, right? Like, I'm the bald guy that sits up at the top of my fucking ivory tower and doesn't care about anybody else. And I'm going to tell you, dude, you got multiple opportunities here, David, to get a win, right? Put some natural grass in, pay the extra money to pick it up so that you can have Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar and all of these fantastic music artists. I'm very glad that he brought music to Charlotte, North Carolina. My life was gray before David Tepper was here. But I will also say that, like, you have enough money that you can bring green grass to the field, and the players really like that. So you could get a little bit of, like, brownie points with the players. For the fans, you removed a section of the fan base by moving out of Wofford. I mean, you alienated a section of the fan base, an entire state of the fan base, by saying it's better business for us to be in Charlotte. I understand it. If you want to know my honest opinion on that, though, I understand why he's coming to Charlotte, because that's where they play the games. That is the main central hub for the fans, and they're going to build a state-of-the-art little system here for the fans to enjoy. I get it. And the connection with Wofford was Jerry Richardson. That's the underlying thing here, though. David Tepper wants to make a name for David Tepper. He wants things done in a David Tepper way. He doesn't want to have to go back to Wofford and say, hey, I made a mistake by ending our relationship. I need y'all to help me out for a year or two. I'll pay you, but I need y'all to help me out for a year or two. That takes humility. It takes self-awareness, and it takes apologies. Those are three things I don't think that David Tepper likes to do very much. And I think that he would rather save himself the money to maybe buy another trailer park that refrigerates itself, right? Instead of having to have fans enjoy themselves. This is a team that has not had a 500 record in 7 years. 7 years. And yet our fan base is one of the most loyal fan bases. Like, we love this team. And we hear so much about, like, we don't want these jerseys in our stadium anymore. Well, then quit making the prices to the point where only out-of-towners that have more money can afford to come in and spend the money on these games. Training camp is the affordable thing. Curtis, you brought it up. This is where a lot of people get to actually connect and interact with this football team. And you got rid of it for what? To save money? Because you didn't want to have an uncomfortable conversation? I mean, what is the reason? Because you could have had extra practices at Bank of America. You could have done practices at Memorial Stadium here in Charlotte. The Clemson thing was a terrible situation last year because you did it on a Thursday night in Clemson. That's just stupid, man. Do it on a Saturday. Do it on a Sunday. Do it on a weekend when people can get there. You did it on a Thursday at 6:30. No one's traveling to fucking Clemson for that. I apologize, but they're not doing it. You could go to South Carolina Stadium, right? You can go to North Carolina State. You go to NC State. Hit a bunch of it. And if you're telling me it's about player
safety.
Go
to UNC Charlotte. Like, what are we doing
UNC
here?
Charlotte. You're talking about player safety because we don't want to travel? Well, then you better tell everyone to stay home all spring and summer. Don't get in a car. Jesus Christ, that's a terrible thing to do. If you get in a car, you might end up like Andy Dalton. No offense, and I don't mean to take that car accident lightly, but you might sprain a thumb. Like, can we just not sit here and act like we're trying to keep people safe? You play a collision sport for a living, dog. Yep. You own a professional football team, and you're worried about putting people on a bus for a 2-hour trip because of safety? Man, get serious, dude. I think it's disrespectful to fans. I think it's ridiculous, and I think that it's a money thing and a pride thing.
Yeah, if you want my honest opinion, they're taking the easy way out because I think they were frustrated last season with some of the filming that happened in training camp, right, with the drone and that stuff. And, they're like, okay, we don't have to deal with that for the next 2 years. We'll just say we're working on construction. They have all these other possibilities for – you can go back to Wofford. You can go into Bank of America for 2 or 3 times and give the fan base a little bit of something. Go to the 49ers Stadium. Ricky, it's a great idea. Travel up north for the fans within the state that, I live in Raleigh. It's almost a 3-hour drive to Charlotte, and I try to make it a couple of times a year. Like, travel up here and give the people up here something.
Go to App State.
App State would be great. There's so many options that you could do. And just to say no, for 2 years, you're not getting anything. That is the easy way out. And it's disrespectful to fans. It really is. Because you both mentioned it. Like, there are people that cannot afford to go to an NFL game. It is not cheap. Even if you're sitting in the 500s, you're spending, if you buy 2 tickets, you're spending at least $150, $200 after fees and all that shit that these websites charge you. So training camp is free. Fans get a chance to interact with the players. They get to see them up close and personal. Like, it's a family event. You're practicing, or you're trying to preach. This is a 2-state, 1-team thing, and you're doing the opposite. You're not practicing what you're preaching. And training camp is such a it's been one of the one of my favorite experiences being a fan and like being able to go to that. You know, we started going, I think Curtis and I, like 2 or 3 years ago, and it's just been awesome to go there and like capture video or just see like certain things that translate into the season. Like, man, we saw that in training camp. Like last year with Deontay Johnson, Curtis saw like what he did on the sideline. Like the couple years prior, I caught a video of a hit that happened to Keith Kirkwood that I think Ian Rappaport ended up retweeting or something crazy like that. Like these are little like nuggets you get from going to training camp that we're just not going to get for 2 years, and there's no like other thing we can do. Like you cannot just work out a couple dates here and then to give fans a little bit of something during training camp. Mm-hmm. It's the easy way out. It's lame. It's just short-sighted. Like you can do something. Ricky, you mentioned it. The owner is a billionaire. He can figure something out. But no, we're just calling it 2 years. You're not getting anything. We're working on construction. Suck it up. You can watch games in the regular season. It's bullshit. It really is.
You gotta hold on. Bo brings up a good point here though that I wanted to give him credit for a second, because remember, guys, we've all been to training camp, right? And we remember even at Wofford, and then we remember here in Charlotte last year. 3 different fields, right? That's the setup. So they have a regiment that they use particularly for training camp. We talk about, like, why don't we just do it at Bank of America? That's where I think, Bryson, you and I are very similar on this. I'm not asking for every training camp session to be available to the fans because you got construction going on. But what about once a week on the weekends? Like, what about Saturdays or Sunday practices? I understand that changes your Saturday and Sunday regiment, but like it's one time. It's a collective of maybe 3. Maybe just do 3 of them, right? It's 3 practices that you change. We have been to training camp a lot where they don't go that hard on these practices. Sometimes it's a walkthrough. Sometimes it's more of a, mental practice for a lot of these guys. That still gives an opportunity to fans, and it still signals to fans that you care about them. That would be my solution. But Bo does bring up a good point that the logistics maybe don't work. And I know I'm passionate about this and I'm upset about it, but I think that it is fair to at least offer up the pieces that do make sense as well.
I don't think that's fair. And I think even if you're looking at it from a purely business standpoint, if you offer 3 Saturdays out of the whole entire training camp schedule, we're going to be at Bank of America Stadium for 3 Saturdays. These are the 3 chances that you guys get as fans to come and watch this. They set up some jersey sales. They sell some food. They do whatever. Like, even from a business standpoint, that makes sense because
makes it worth it. Yeah,
that's what fans are going to come to. The stadium is going to be full. Like, there's going to be people there. It might not be completely sold out, but it's going to be a higher level of like a day in, day out basis of what it was last season. At the events that we went to last year for training camp. So, I mean, from a business standpoint, even if it like logistically it doesn't make sense, you don't have to do a full entire fucking training camp session 3 Saturdays out of the month. You can do like a condensed version, run a couple plays on offense, and then go wherever you're doing it to where fans aren't allowed and finish it or do whatever you need to do. Like, it's not hard to figure this out. It's really not, but they're taking the easy way out. And I really don't think it's fair to even say like logistically it might not make sense, because I think that's bullshit.
I want to say this, and this rubbed me the wrong way. And maybe this is piddly and this is just my journalism coming out, but the way they headlined the article was update on Carolina Panthers 2025 training camp. Yeah. That was your headline. There's not even a fucking author to this article.
Yeah. Yep.
Not even an author. No one.
Darren or forget what her name is. New writer that we just got last year from Green Bay. Neither one of them wanted to put their name on.
Not even a name on it. And that's your headline. You tried to. That was a slip under the rug. Let's hope this passes right before the draft. Let's just throw this out there. I thought that was bullshit and petty, to be honest with you. I'm a journalist. I know. You're going to try to slip this on the rug. You're not going to say the Panthers aren't showing training camp. Update on training camp. Click the article, and then you'll find out what the fuck's happening. So I thought that was bullshit.
They also sandwiched all this in between hinting at Cam Newton being back involved with the franchise. How convenient was that, right?
And we talk about the business thing. This is also going to hurt local businesses, because folks that go to training camp, I know Bryson and I have done this before, after we go and grab a bite to eat after. Like, you're not getting that anymore. No one's going there to watch.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
there's part of the argument about Wofford and Spartanburg. Spartanburg relied on that. It was a huge part of their economic plan as a city. And when that got pulled out, it crushed them. And there are bars right there next to the practice field that we were at last year that are not going to see that business. Like, it's just not going to happen. And they're going to feel it. So, yeah, interesting stuff.
All right, let's talk Icky quick, and then we're gonna do this giveaway because I know folks are waiting. So Panthers pick up the 5th-year option on Icky. They didn't draft a tackle, who with a lot of us thought at least at some point they maybe would provide someone in there with the uncertainty with Moten after this year as well. But they do pick up the 5th-year option. Thoughts on this quickly, and then we'll get out of here.
I'll just go quickly. I thought it was smart to wait. I stated that, I think, like a show or two ago. But, I think they're confident in Icky's ability, what he showed last season, the growth that he made. I'm not mad at it. Like, I think, either way, you're going to need to find an answer to that position. If they have belief in him and they're paying him and they're moving forward with the 5th-year option, I trust what Dan's done so far, specifically after this draft. So I think, just roll with it. It's a 5th-year option, right? It's not like you're extending his contract and going 6 years, $150 million at the left tackle position. So it's not the end of the world. But I think if it were me, I would have waited, but I'm not super upset about it.
Got no issues with it. I think that what it does is it gives a vote of confidence to Icky that if you continue on the trajectory, you're our guy and you're going to get a fat bag of cash after this season. And we could even start talking about that during the season with this vote of good faith as well, right? It's not necessarily the ultimatum thing of not picking it up, because sometimes when you don't pick it up, you still might have the intention of working with a player, right? But it's kind of like this, we're not sold on you, so prove it. This is hey, we think we are sold on you, but let's play it out throughout the year, and then let's talk. I think Icky, all he's got to do, man, is keep going in the right direction. Keep going in the direction that you're going, because having Damian Lewis next to him, having Robert Hunt over on the right side, and then Taylor Moten, if they get good center play, man, Icky doesn't have to be this all-star by himself on an island guy most of the time. Just be part of the unit. It's a good unit, and he'll get his payday if he can just hold his own.
Yeah, I'll say what I said a couple of weeks ago. I would have tried to get something long-term done, because I think if he does play really well this year, it's just going to get more expensive. Similar to what they did with J.C. Horn. They waited. Obviously, they wanted to see what his availability was. He played a full season this year, and then they had to pay him a little bit more than Surtain. And you look statistically, Surtain is a better player. So, and they got him cheaper. So that's kind of the way I look at it in comparison. I know it's different positions and everything, but I would have tried to get ahead of it a little bit. But I don't hate this at all. I think they're in the end, they're going to get a long-term deal done, and hopefully it's not too much. Well, let's get to the giveaway. I know that's what a lot of folks have been waiting for. So I know
let's do this too. Yeah, I've got it set up on the wheel. But here's the thing. Anyone who is on here on YouTube and not Twitter, make sure that either you message us or leave a comment here if you win, if you're not a Twitter account. If you do have a Twitter account, make sure you are following Panthers on Tap or Bryson or myself, whichever one or all three is really what you should be doing. But at least follow one of us so that we can DM and get your shipping address and everything like that. I'm going to share my screen here to show you the wheel, and then I will shuffle the wheel right before. So everyone can see this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
okay. And then here are the entries. I have them numbered for the people that have multiple ones. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the shuffle button here, because you can see all these are kind of packed together. So I'm going to hit the shuffle button. Now everything is completely different, okay? I'm going to click to spin, and then this bad boy is going to do its thing. Let's do it.
All right.
I like the sound effect, too. That's official. Remember to have your pet spayed and neutered. Control the pet population.
Oh, James Cody.
Cody. All right.
Late entry that came in, dropped a super chat. Good for you, James Cody. That's awesome, man. So we will. James Cody, does anyone have his? Is he on Twitter? Do you guys know him on Twitter or anything?
I don't.
Okay.
I can try to message him on YouTube as well to see. Maybe he's still
Hey,
tuned
the
in
Bo
here.
says it's rigged. It's rigged. Yeah, you didn't like that, Bo? Sorry, man. Next time we'll play Plinko for it.
But no, I'll try to reach out to him
Okay.
on YouTube as well. See if I don't know.
Congratulations, James Cody, man. That's awesome, dude. Thank you guys all for getting involved in that too. Hopefully we could do more of that kind of thing.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys tuning in. And we'll probably take a few weeks off here. We'll come back. I'm thinking probably once the schedule drops in a couple of weeks and kind of go through that. And then we'll kind of be on here periodically throughout. I know things will slow down a little bit. And then we'll obviously pick up. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with training camp because it'll be interesting. None of us. I mean, we got to kind of rely off of, the beat reporters and what they show us on Twitter, which I know is limited with NFL restrictions the way it is. So we'll see what we can provide you guys, but we'll do our best. That's not shutting us out. We're going to do a damn good job of it. So
maybe we'll try to get some of those awesome local beat reporters to come on and talk to us.
Exactly. Give us the goods on what's happening at camp. But we appreciate every single one of you. We will be back again in a few weeks once that schedule drops. I tried to push to see if an international game was coming for Carolina. We'll see. They do play a lot of teams that have international games, so that is a possibility. But appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. Appreciate all the super chats for that draft hat, and we'll get James Cody that as soon as possible. But until then, everyone keep pounding.